my podcast is Christopher Bell, the Strongman Finance.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to meet you.
Dude, okay, where we were talking about. I like as much as I don't like a lot of the things that the government spends the money on, and as much as them just massively printing money and running up deficits pisses me off. Paying your taxes is kind of patriotism, some level of taxes, whatever it is. We all agree on a few things. We need a military, especially now that China's turned into a rampant bunch of dicks. And, we need some services. I don't know how you do that without taxation. I don't pretend to know the best way to tax people. I do know that historically, even when you jack the tax rate up to 70, 80%, you still get about 37 to 40%. Because the rich just they hire guys like you to move their money around.
I mean, the real issue with income inequality is the tax rates on capital gains and dividend income are extremely low. So the actual burden of high taxation always falls on like small businesses and employees. And that's the big problem with why people that don't make a lot of money feel like they're crushed, because they're paying much higher rates than extremely rich people do.
I agree, but also, if you're doing the proper thing and investing in your 401k, you are also benefiting from that. You know what I mean? That's benefiting. That would be the counter I would make to somebody who, look, I know it's tough, man. It is. I'm not without my sympathy. But look, nothing humanity has created has even remotely approached lifting people up out of poverty like capitalism has. Personally, I think a lot of people are suffering because there's too much government regulation in their way.
And people don't even know what they're missing. I mean, I think most people are just used to paying, their 6.2% for Social Security and their freaking 1.45% for Medicare or whatever. And then their employer has to match that as well. So you're really paying almost a 15% tax on every dollar you freaking make. But people are so used to it, they're like, oh, that's just natural. Whereas, that's a direct result of socialist programs.
The worst one of all is inflation that people don't understand, because inflation now helps me that I'm a homeowner, because essentially I'm paying them back with money that's worth less. That's why we actually have inflation, is because the wealthy benefit from taking on debt. I mean, the ultra wealthy, if we went to a gold standard, they wouldn't be able to do that. Again, not an economist. I don't know the best, most efficient way to run the markets. I generally think that government intervention is not the most prudent way to run things, because I don't think that some guy working in an office in Washington is going to understand you or I need something next Tuesday.
Well, I mean, the problem is that politicians aren't really long-term thinkers. They want to appease their constituency in the short term. And if that means passing a highly expensive law that eventually leads to inflation because they print money to pay it off, well, in the short term, everybody's happy because they got their check, and nobody really thinks about the long term. So that's why politicians they're not worried about the long term. They're just worried about how they can appease their constituents now, which is a big part of the problem.
Well, funny, I was having a conversation with my mom last night because, we bailed on this. I was kind of tired too yesterday, to the point where a dude was kind of messing around with me at work. He borrowed my keys. He was like moving them around while I tried to grab them. I looked at him and I go, listen, dude, I ain't playing with you right now. So I could tell I was grumpy because it annoyed me. I told my boss that and he just started laughing. I was having a conversation with my mom. And I don't know, maybe because she's been watching Tucker Carlson, she starts talking about how hyperinflation is on the way or high inflation is coming. And I'm like, Mom, I've been telling you for years that cash is stupid and you hold way too much of it. Have $10,000 to $15,000 depending on the budget you live in. I like when they say the maximum you should have is a year in cash for emergencies. But other than that, what is cash doing? They don't pay any. You don't get paid any interest on it. So now she's coming at me like that, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, I've been arguing with you about this for years. Where she'd go, why are you putting all your money into the stock market? Why don't you save some cash? I go, because my mutual funds are liquid, and if I really needed money that quickly, I could just sell them and have the money in 3 days.
I mean, here's the thing. You need enough cash to where if something happens, you don't need to automatically go and sell your investments because it could be a down year in the market. And if you have a big bill come in, like your freaking roof goes out and you don't have enough money to pay that in cash, well, you're going to have to sell your freaking stocks. And if the market's down, then you're actually taking a huge loss. So, I mean, like the general rule is like 3 to 6 months, but if you're comfortable with more, that's fine. But I would say minimum 3.
Well, my goal, I got to cut down my investments. I was doing 30% in my TSP. I'm going to cut that down to 5 because I got some expenses coming up, and I want to stack cash. So I'm going to buy a good bed, man. So that's going to be $1,500 to $2,000, and then I got a few things that I want to buy that I tell you off air that I'm not going to tell you on air.
Oh, please tell me.
No. But yeah, but so I'm going to have some expenses and I want to be able to pay that down really quick and then get to my goal is the $10,000 mark. Once I hit that, I'm going to start stacking away about $200 a month in cash. Just let that build. And if an emergency comes up, I'll take from that fund.
Yeah, I had the opposite problem. I had way too much in cash, but my thought process is, this is about a year ago. I was like, okay, well, I'm getting married, and then I have to buy a freaking house, yada yada yada. So I was like hoarding cash because I was uncertain. And then once I bought my house, I was like, okay, it's not really as expensive as I thought it was going to be. And at that point, the market was still down. So I started throwing like serious cash into the market. But I still have I think I still have, how many months do I have? I probably have 6 months of savings in my emergency savings account. And then like my wife has 3.
I just leave that money there, man, and forget about it. I wouldn't, if you got 6 months and she's got 3 months, personally, I would just be like, babe, let's maybe add a little bit here and there to that emergency cash so you're up to 6 months. And then I wouldn't save any more in that. I mean, but it's smart that you did that because whether the market's due for a correction for a big reason. So we got the COVID vaccine. People are going to be going back to work and a lot of them aren't going to be gambling on stocks.
I mean, yeah, that could be. My thought process is a lot of it has to do with margin lending because freaking rates are so low that people can just borrow money and, buy 2 or 3 times as many stocks as they normally could. So that's definitely part of the problem. But, I mean, if they keep rates low for a long time, I can see the stock market just going up and up and up for a long time. I mean, eventually there's going to be a correction, but I'm not
talking about the Great Depression type thing. But I mean, look at the overall S&P 500's P ratio is what, 22 or 24 right now? I don't remember if we talked about this before.
No.
That's an expensive market. You're really probably only going to see a 4 or 5% return when you pay that much money for your mutual fund or your index fund.
Well, so I read this interesting article, and it actually. Oh, sorry, were you saying something else?
No. Go ahead, man.
No, so I was reading this article, and they were basically talking about bond yields and comparing it to stock yields. And there was actually somebody saying that, yeah, I mean, why would PE ratios not go up? Since if bonds are such crap, even if stocks had double the PE ratio, they'd still be much better deal when you're looking at earnings. So, I mean, maybe it could keep going up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I mean, at a certain point, it's parts of the market have to come down. There is no. I'm selling the NIO stock $500. I made $350 on it. I'm out of that, and I'm just gonna throw that back into an index fund. But I mean,
Buy my book.
I will actually. I was going to, dude. I'm just distracted. I'm just distracted by buying the house.
If you don't buy yourself, if you don't buy this, you're a loser. Okay, that's you.
Dude,
That's
I
you
was
right
hoping. Dude, I was hoping you had an audio version of it so I could listen to it at work because I don't have a lot of time to read right now.
Yeah, I might actually do my own audio because, like,
If you do your own audio book, I'm in, man. I'm in 100% on that. I just fucking throw it on my phone and listen to it while I'm at work.
You know why you didn't buy my book? It's because you're jealous of my 2 sales that I've had so far.
Hey, dude, don't sleep. That's an impressive thing to write a book and have it published.
I'm 2 sales. I made like $3. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Dude, I mean, look, you never know, man. If a bunch of shady, dishonest people can become YouTube financial people who you can tell what they did is they read Investopedia in a cursory way, and they're like, I don't give financial advice now. Then you can make it giving honest, real financial advice that isn't stupid. Like,
well, I think there's a market for it. I think there's a market. So yeah, the market right now is options, Bitcoin, blah blah blah. Like that's what's selling on YouTube. But if you had somebody that was like, you know, decently young and, you know, could actually speak to younger people, you know, like me or you, we're not freaking old farts talking about
you need to buy mutual funds or you're not going to retire. Don't be risky.
You know, as long as you're not like that, I think there is some kind of appeal to actually giving good advice. But it's mostly an age thing. That's why I think a lot of people are listening to these young YouTubers. They don't know jack.
Well, also, you got to think what you're really selling on YouTube is your personality. That's really all you're selling, no matter what the topic you cover is. And I just look at it and I'm like, if you have a decent message and like you're honest. See, a lot of these YouTubers are going to learn later on that, and they'll make a lot of money on it. They're going to be rich, but they're going to learn that their dishonest ways are going to come back to haunt them at a certain point. You know, starting because I'm going to do a fire video where I tell you exactly how to fire. And one of the things I'm going to say in there is start a YouTube channel because it's basically the only way you're going to do it. And I'm going to run the numbers, and then I'm going to say shit like this, where I go, you know, if you want to fire, man, and you're pretty unscrupulous, what you do is you start a YouTube channel, lie about your portfolio, and then you tell people to buy index funds on your YouTube channel. Then you create a course so your fans can buy it. You pay $100 for them to turn around and tell you to go buy index funds.
No, honestly, that's like one of my ideas. It's like I want to develop all these different income streams where even if they don't make me a lot of money individually, when you compound them or you add them all together, you're actually making good money. So like you write a couple books, you sell those on Amazon, maybe you get $100 a month from that. You do freaking YouTube, you make a course. You know, there's also, you could even like, I mean, I'm starting to tutor people. It's nothing to do with YouTube, but I'm trying to generate as many like different streams of income as I can. And once you achieve that and all those streams of income replace your work income, you're fired.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know why anybody with a skill like accounting wouldn't tutor people for $50 an hour. You know,
I feel like an idiot, dude. I didn't do that. So I just finished my exams and there was all fresh in my mind. And then I just kind of sat on it for like a year. And then now I'm like, maybe I could tutor. And then, I was like, wow, I can actually make money off this.
Dude, $50 an hour just teach somebody accounting. I mean, that's why wouldn't you do? Yeah, like my goal with my channel is get to the point where I can sell merch. That's basically, and I'll throw up a Patreon if you want to give me free money. I'm not gonna fucking.
I'll give you $1 a month, okay?
Yeah, no. But I'll start a Patreon, and then I got a lot of ideas for the merchandise I'd sell. I got a lot of an idea for a clothing line that has a lot of military stuff in it. I think I told you, but it's for us that weren't quite operational. The guys that didn't leave the wire.
Pogue gear.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be, Pogue gear. But no, and I'm going to throw in other stuff. I mean, look, he's starting to get more popular. But if you're a guy that just wants to learn, I really honestly cannot see why people are not flocking to Sven Carlin's stuff. He's a PhD in finance who's like breaking down the balance sheet, and he just talks about value investing. And he's smart because what does Warren Buffett say? He says the number one rule is don't lose money. So whatever your return is, somebody laughs at you because you bought stocks and you got a 5% return. Most people are not going to get a 5% return on their stocks.
No, I mean,
like
they get like one lucky break with one stock and then it crashes the next year. But, I made 50% in one year and then negative 1,000 the next.
Well, that's why the military saying fast is slow, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you never go down 100% on an investment, you don't have to recover. You don't have to get a 200% gain to get the money back. So, I mean, it's like, oh, you only got 10% return this year. Oh, I got a 50% return. Next year, I'm down 60%. Like, I got a 7% return. I'm ahead of you. So I don't understand if you are a new person. I don't understand why if you even do cursory research, like you can make solid investments knowing 3 ratios. You can pick stocks with 3 ratios: price to book, PE, and peg value. And I guarantee if you stick to buying stuff like under 20 for PE, under 1 for price to book, and under 1 for peg ratio, you're not going to lose money.
No, bro. Value
I would do more research than that, but
all you got to do is buy the FANG stock.
Yeah, well, right. Well, dude, I keep going on Netflix, and everybody keeps telling me it's a buy, and it's another thing where I did an entire podcast about it because I go, listen, this is another example of people not fundamentally understanding the market. What does Netflix do? They create content. What does Disney do? They have a whole merchandising empire, parks, and they create content, and they own the biggest names in entertainment. Marvel, Star Wars. They're going to have like 15 Star Wars shows. And after the woke disaster that was the new trilogy, I got into The Mandalorian. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. If they would have stuck to more a space western, it'd be better. But it's good because I don't have. Yeah, it's got Baby Yoda, and I don't have to listen to woke messaging the whole time. It's so. My point with that rant is all these companies like CBS, NBC, they're going to a format where they're putting their stuff on streaming services. And Netflix enjoyed a large period with no competition. They got competition now. And I don't know if I see them coming out on top. They'll be there. But I mean, the $500 or whatever the stock is right now, I don't understand how people think that the value is justified.
Well, people, they don't look at the business. They only care about the past performance. So if Netflix went up by 50% last year, that means it's going to keep going up. That is the only thought that they have. Nothing else matters. That's why the vast majority of people eventually get burned, because that's how they invest.
Yeah, no, I agree. there's some dangerous stuff going on now with these YouTubers with a large audience recommending penny stocks, and I know they're front running this stuff. And I mean that just turns into the greater fool theory over time. Eventually, there's no greater. I don't understand why people think that a penny stock is justified unless you actually know the penny stock market and you know how to ride it out. I don't personally. I have no interest in the penny stock market unless
No, it's highly
you know,
speculative. I mean, it's just extremely small companies.
Well, yeah, it's like that Jeff Bishop dude talking about Carta. If you had invested $1,000, you've had $4 million today. I just want to headbutt him. Like, I mean, you're just cherry picking stocks out there. That is the easiest thing to do. I mean, I don't know, man. It's frustrating because you and I actually know what it's like to work for a living. So I look around and I'm like, why are you?
I really don't even think people know what the point of investing is. Like a lot of people, I think they just invest to like, oh, I'm going to make quick money so I can go buy this car I want or go on this big vacation that I want. And that, they're not trying to invest for the long term to, build a sustainable income that'll last them their entire life. That's not what most people are doing. They're just trying to make a quick buck. And when people think that way, I mean, that's what they try. They're trying to make a quick buck and get out and go buy their stupid object,
Well, dude, that's why I wanted to have Nate on. So a second reasonable dude could literally explain to him because he's like, I'm going to go long on TeSzLa. And I'm like, look, man, Morgan Stanley just dropped their stock price target to $90 from where it is today.
I saw that. That's like what, 1/5 or 1/6 the price.
Not that I think that, all these Wall Street analysts are correct, but it's going to get to this point. This is what I'm predicting. TeSzLa is going to become the world's most valuable company before everybody looks around and they're like, wait, why is this the most valuable? How is this the most valuable company in the world?
It doesn't make sense. So I went to Walmart today, and I was at one Walmart in my local town, and it was filled to the brim of people all buying products. Crazy lines. And this is in every freaking town in America. And I think they have like crap overseas too. And then people are going to tell me that this Walmart is not generating enough, or it is not as valuable as TeSzLa. Like I've seen like 3 TeSzLas the entire time that I've lived here. You're going to tell me that Walmart is less valuable than TeSzLa? You are smoking crack.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, I agree with you completely. That's why I think it's going to get to that level of irrational exuberance where I'm sitting in the break room and somebody comes in. Did you hear? TeSzLa's the most valuable company in the world. I should buy it, right? And I'm just like,
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, there's definitely a reason that TeSzLa is definitely more valuable than Amazon or Walmart. Walmart's about to go full Amazon on the internet. I think Walmart's.
Do you want to buy a stock and hold it for the long run? Walmart is the stock. Like I just have this feeling, and maybe I'm irrational, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm obsessed with Walmart. Like I might actually dump like a couple thousand more into it.
I listen, man. If there's a couple stocks out there that I would tell Walmart could get overpriced too, but I don't think at this current level. But if there's a solid company that you want to own out there, it's Walmart. I mean, like they are. I don't think people realize the moves that they're making online, and Walmart is positioned like Amazon to be able to deliver anywhere in the country. Like, oh, you want your groceries delivered? Walmart's country. I live with. I think there's probably 5 Walmarts within 10 miles of me. Where my new house is, I have a Walmart across the street.
Oh, that's paradise right there. Ooh.
Yeah. It's so I don't understand, but that's the beautiful thing about investing. You just talking about it, and you're like I said in an article I read today. Your nephew's telling you how he made 300% on Bitcoin and lemonade stock, and you only made 20% this year or 10%, whatever you made. Just go and buy his fucking lemonade stock after the stock crashes. Like, yeah, you were right about lemonade. Once it dropped by 90, I took it. It's what are you buying? Walmart? Dude, that's boring. That's not high growth.
People have talked trash. I was like, well, I mean, you can go buy your TeSzLa when it's got a 1200 PE ratio, because you're such a genius. But my Walmart, which I think has like a 19 or 20 PE ratio, and then it's making massive moves in the online market. Yeah, I'm such an idiot. You're such a genius.
Dude, I regret not last year. I was like, man, I'm like Walmart. And last year, Walmart's PE ratio was probably 12 or 13.
Dude, the next crash, I'm scooping up some serious Walmart, man.
I think I'm on the Walmart board. I think I'm going to too. I've been thinking about it for a while, but last year before tech exploded, I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Microsoft, Walmart, they don't look like good bargains. And God, I wish I had been just buying Microsoft and Walmart hand over fist last year.
And see, that's why you do want like that emergency fund, and then maybe $5,000 more over what you need, just for those opportunities. Where you see a stock that's so undervalued, and you can make a serious amount of money.
Well, this year proved one of my theories correct. There's a good thing about investing. I gambled with like $500 on this midstream company when oil was in the tank. And it was my theory that these midstream companies are way undervalued. And I read some articles and I looked at some of their metrics and I was like, well, it's a small part of my fucking portfolio. Let's do it. And like these two midstreams have been crushing it for me.
What is it, like a oil extractor? Like, what do they do?
No, the great thing about midstreams is it's just pipelines. They transport natural gas and oil across the country, dude. And when oil went negative, I was looking around and I'm like, well, here's one thing I do know. Here's what I know. All of you that are predicting the decline in oil are wrong.
Dude, I think, honestly, aren't oil ETFs like super depressed right now? Because everybody's so like exuberant about, EVs and whatever. I think, oil's going to be around for a long, long time. And I think even if you put like a little capital investment in one of those ETFs, it might actually pay off for you in the long run.
Dude, well, look, here's the thing that most of these people, we talked about this, but since we're doing another live stream, I like talking about it, so I'll say it again. It's the problem of not understanding the underlying technology. When all these people are talking about solar, yes, solar will continue to get better. The problem you have is a battery problem. Until we figure out a new technology, you are at the limits of physics. So in order to power our civilization, you need 100 to 200-fold increase in battery performance. It's not possible at this point by the limits of physics. So the environmental damage that you would need to do to put us entirely on windmills and solar is more environmental damage than it would be with oil. And people are going to learn this lesson. There's going to be a reporter out there who does an expose where he talks about the evils of the EV market because they had to strip mine an entire section of the Congo rainforest to extract cobalt or whatever rare earth metal you need. So, this idea that China with 1 billion people and India with 1 billion people and Africa, which is developing rapidly, like try to outwork a Nigerian, dude. You ain't gonna do it.
Also, their population is gonna like quadruple. Like I think they're projected to have like 4 billion people in Africa by the end of the century. Like it's gonna explode in size.
And they're like, I forget what it was. It was estimated that the number of internal combustion engines in the next 30 years will double from Africa's growth. Africa, people say China's the future. China's not the future, dude. Africa is the future. Africa and India are the future. I mean China.
Really, you can look at birth rates. You can look at like whose populations are projected to actually grow, and which populations are going to shrink. Because like if you look at China, like they're not really having that many kids, so they're going to eventually get to the point where they have all these freaking old people, and not many people to actually work and produce. Where if you look at like Africa or India, or I mean even the Middle East, I mean maybe not so much the Middle East, but definitely Africa and India, they're going to have a huge working population.
India is going to be one of the premier superpowers in the world in probably 30 years. Dude, those people are so fucking educated over there. They're like, we have MIT. They have like 70 MITs.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I mean, like, it's got a long way to go, but I mean, once it's fully developed, yeah, it's going to be a freaking monster.
But I mean, here's my thing. Here's my thing about America. With that Chinese professor coming out and saying that, you know, they own American politics now. My thing is the play for America is to be like, okay, China, you don't play games. Let's play games. I'm throwing in with these guys in India over here. They got a lot more democracy over there. They got a bigger market. I'm throwing in with those guys. You know, they don't seem to want to like militarily control the entire world. So, I mean, I think the Indian market is probably a great place to be invested over the next whatever X number of years.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem with India right now is I think there's a lot of corruption. And they've actually had problems with like, you know, almost too much socialism. So I mean, I think if they actually get completely away from that and like corruption is really beaten down, yeah, it would be a good place to go. But like right now, I wouldn't be really comfortable investing in India.
I'm not throwing any money in it, but I'm just saying future looking down the road.
Oh yeah, but so there's going to be a time where you can like even Africa right now, like why would you invest there? You know, there's literally nothing good to buy. But you know, once it becomes more stable and prosperous, you see, if you get in there early, you can make some big money.
Well, as long as the world doesn't go full socialism, I'm worried that, you know, capitalism's getting a lot of the blame for the problems. And I have a tough time explaining to people that you don't, this system that we have in the United States currently is not capitalism. It's crony capitalism mixed with socialism. And that's what is exacerbating everybody's problems. You know, it's the subsidy. I'm in debt. Okay, well, nobody should have given you $50,000 or $100,000 to go to school for a gender studies degree. And the only reason they did that is because of guaranteed federal loans. And now you're basically a debt slave for the rest of your life. Like you want to get mad at capitalism. Okay, let's talk about what capitalism would be. You come into my bank. You want a loan to go to college. Chris comes in and he says, I want to go to school for accounting. Okay. Solid degree. Yeah, solid degree. Solid degree. I think, but I need you to prove that you're going to do the work. So I'll give you a loan to a community college. Give you the loan to the community college. It's cheap. You go there, you knock it out of the park with good grades. Then you come back to the bank and you're like, hey man, I want to go to a 4-year university. Show me your grades. I'll be like, okay, good. This dude's a hard worker. He's going to be able to pay back this loan. I give you the loan. You go there, you get out, you have an excellent skill, which I should have gotten instead of my finance degree. But
it's never too late.
Yeah. But you know, you go on, you come in there and you're like, I want to go to school to study lesbian gender equity. And I'm like, yeah, does your degree have math in it? No? Okay, it's not a real degree then. It's not a real degree unless you have math or it's a language. Spanish is a real degree. Get a PhD in Spanish, you can speak Spanish. You get a degree in Farsi, you can translate Farsi for the United States government. It's a real degree. Other than that, those are the only exceptions. If you don't have to go to at least calculus, it's not a real degree. Hate to tell
Yeah.
people that.
I mean, like, and it makes perfect sense. It's like if you actually have money on the line, why would you lend money to somebody you know has no valuable skills? Doesn't make sense. But if the federal government gets involved and they're like, well, we'll finance it and we don't care if we lose money because we'll just write it off and the taxpayers will lose out. Well, at that point, that's how you start getting these crap loans for the dumbest, most worthless degrees that provide no value to society. And that's what happens. You have all these people in debt. They have no degrees, where they actually would have been better off if a bank wouldn't loan them money. If the bank said, hey, I'm not going to loan you money, well, maybe they wouldn't go to college at all to get a BS degree. It'd be so much better that way, but that's not how it is.
Well, then you have this. Calls for a relief of student debt. Chuck Schumer's talking about up to $50,000. Okay, but again, let me explain to you how government is now screwing over the little guy again in this scenario. Most of those loans favor suburban kids who come from enough money to pay the loans anyways. Poor people are not going to be bailed out by these paying off student loans. My thing is, yeah, it was predatory to lend you the money. But, we may talk about some debt forgiveness if you want to do certain things that benefit society, volunteering in hospitals or whatever. But I look at it now and I'm like, I'm sorry. You took on a debt. Now you got to pay it back.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like, there's no moral argument you can make because we live in a democracy or a republic, whatever. But, we vote and we elect people to, make our wishes come true. And if people have a bunch of debt and they want that debt forgiven by the government, they're going to elect people that are going to push that. And if that happens, that's just the way it is. And there's nothing you can do to control that. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the economic repercussions, which in this case will just be more inflation in the long run, which hurts poor people. If you're rich and you have stocks and real estate, inflation doesn't matter. It's like whatever. But if you're poor, your dollar doesn't go as far in the future, partially because of student loan forgiveness. Well, then you got screwed.
Well, that's my what scares me about it is like the more we go down this, the more socialism looks profitable. And you explain to people that are young, listen, I am just old enough to have lived through what the Soviet Union was. I believe, like I told you before, I believe that in capitalism, if you got the government out of it, you would have a lot less of the things that people are complaining about capitalism for. So, it's capitalism that created the problem, or not it's government that created the problem with the tech companies now censoring people because they gave them protections. If that wasn't in place, you wouldn't have that. And so, like, my fear is as this gets worse, because they are creating inflation, people are going to look at more and more government in their life. And my personal view is you need government, obviously, but you don't want unelected bureaucrats involved in your life. You just don't. And socialism and communism encourage viciousness, because you look at me and you're like, you need to confiscate this guy's guns. Well, why? Well, because guns are illegal now. Like, okay, well, that's an unconstitutional order and you've just usurped the Constitution. Boom, I'm out of there. Now they get the guy in there that'll follow the order. And then it just gets worse and worse from there. You just get more and more vicious people in power.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to America, I'm really not worried about it because I think there's such a broad group of people that are so opposed to communism and, severe socialism that I just don't think that there could actually be, a fully socialist government that ever takes power here. And if you look at history, I mean, it's really only these extremely poor societies that have actually overthrown governments and instituted communism, like Russia and China. Where here, I mean, there's poor people here, obviously, but it's not nearly as bad, or as, there wasn't as nearly as much wealth inequality here as there was in China or Russia. So I'm honestly not worried about it. I mean, we might have to pay higher tax rates because people are stupid, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think as long as you're investing, you still have a pretty good shot of succeeding and, having a fruitful retirement in the long run.
Yeah, it's just that, you have people like AOC in government where I'm like, you have an economics degree. Why do you not understand that modern monetary theory is wrong? We can just print as much money as we need. Yeah, until you can't.
I mean, so the biggest issue is the government debt. And right now it's financed at really low interest rates, which is fine because as long as we don't have to pay a lot of interest, we can borrow a ton of money. But there's going to come a day where people are like, why are we buying treasury bonds when they're returning 0.5% a year? And when that happens, interest rates are going to have to go up. And then the government has to pay more money in interest.
I don't understand why anybody is buying treasuries. I don't understand.
I mean, honestly, I think it's just the Fed. Like, I don't think people are buying treasuries anymore.
I think
the Federal Reserve is just buying them. Why would you buy it? It doesn't make sense. You might as well just hold cash.
Yeah, because even with inflation eating your cash, it's still not as bad as T-bills. I think you can find some bank accounts out there that are high interest payers that'll pay like 1.5%.
No, I seriously looked for like I was looking at like T-bill mutual funds or whatever. And I was like, the yield is lower than my high yield savings account. That doesn't make any sense. Why would I put my money in a T-bill when I could put it in a freaking high yield savings account and get like double the amount of money? It just doesn't make sense. Who's doing this?
Well, dude, that's quantitative easing.
It's a Fed. They're just buying everything.
Like, you and I are not even as educated as them. And if they were like, yeah, we're just going to print money, we'd be like, what do you mean? Yeah, we're just going to keep printing money. Like, yeah, but you can't do that. Well, modern monetary theory. Look, I know that theory is rewarded at your Marxist institution, but it's not a real thing, dude. How do you not know this? It's mind-boggling. And, what am I going to do? What are you going to do? But we're sitting here, and you and I see how this ends. This ends in higher taxes.
Yeah, or they just let inflation happen, and a ton of people just live terrible lives. And the rich continue to prosper because they have assets, and inflation doesn't affect assets. Assets will generally follow inflation. And that's how it is. So, you give people temporary relief. It's like, oh, I'm going to send you a stimulus check. Here you go. But then there's a lot more money out there. So now everything goes up in price. And in the long run, that leads to inflation. Well, I mean, that's your problem.
Government for you here. I didn't get my stimulus check, and people overseas and dead people got stimulus checks. Like, come on, IRS. I filed tax returns when I made no taxable income just to be on your good side, and you can't send me a stimulus check. Everybody else, I don't even want the stimulus check, to be honest with you, but if everybody else is getting it, I shouldn't say want it. I don't need it. It's like I'm in a comfortable position. And to me, I would rather my country just kept that money, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to say no to because it's like, oh, I get $1,200 in my bank. But I mean, it's literally just printed money. Like, it has no value. It's just like, oh, here's $1,200 more.
I know,
it's hard to say no to.
It's redeemable for firearms, which buy freedom.
Yeah, you gun nuts and your 50,000 guns.
I don't have 50. Dude. I only have a few.
There's guys that have like 40 guns. It's like, oh god. Like
I
I get
don't
it. You only have
know.
2 hands.
Well, it's not even that. It's like I get it. There's guys that look personally. My opinion on it is everybody in America in their home should have a firearm on them. That's just how I think. But I don't have a problem with you if you're a gun nut. It's like anything. It's what you like to spend money on. I'm not particular that way. I like shooting guns, and I probably will end up not owning more than 10. But because one I'm looking into, I don't care if this goes out on the internet because it's not bad. One of them I'm looking into is a lever action Henry, just because I think lever actions are badass and fun to shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple guns, and I'm not against gun ownership, but you have guys that like they're not really making it, or they have a hard time paying their bills. But if they get some extra money, they're gonna go buy a gun, and they have like
Yeah,
50 guns.
at
It's
that
like,
point, if you and I were running the budget, we'd be like, you don't have a bunch of gun money. You have self-defense gun money. That's how much you have. Here's your 9mm. Go practice at the range. That's how much money you have. Come back to me when you make more money. Like if I'm playing the guy's budgeter, like, dude, I want an AR-15. Okay, bro, but you're just eking by. How are you going to get it? Oh, my credit card. It's consumerism, man.
I actually do have a theory though, and I've been kind of like mulling it in my head. There's actually zero interest credit cards, which I actually used one time. And to me, it's almost like, well, if I want to buy, if I need this big ticket item, why not put it on the card? Like let's say I have $10,000 to invest, and I decide to just invest the money right off the bat, and then I purchase this item for $10,000. Well, right now I have $10,000 in the market, and it's growing, growing, growing. And I make payments over a year or two for this $10,000 item that I would have paid in cash for. I mean, so technically, if you're super disciplined, it actually almost makes sense to use zero interest credit cards if you can for big ticket items.
Dude, it makes complete sense. Why wouldn't you? Look, if I'm going to go to the bank and they're like, we'll give you $10,000. How much interest do I owe on you? Oh, you don't owe interest. I'm like, okay, good. Prepare to eat a lot of inflation with this one because I'm going to have this debt for a long time. You're not charging me interest, homie, on $10,000. Guess what? You'll get that $10,000 back in 30 years.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Like there was a lot of people.
Know why. Dude, I gotta find these zero interest credit cards. I'm gonna find one tomorrow because I throw everything. I try to live so that my credit card is zeroed every month, unless I have to buy a big ticket item, like I got to buy a bed for my apartment or my house, obviously.
Yeah, that's a perfect candidate for zero interest. Perfect.
Yeah, but see, because I have enough money and I live below my means, I have a cashback rewards card. So Chase is not actually making interest money on me, but I'm getting free cash every month from them. Like this month, I'm getting $70.
Yeah, but the reason you're doing that is because there's other dupes out there that don't pay off their card, so you kind of profit from them.
Yeah.
I mean, I do the same thing.
I mean, if you look at how much I'm going to make this year off of that Chase rewards card, I'm probably going to make $600 this year that I did nothing for.
Yeah, but there's so many ways to make freaking extra money. It's like switch to a high yield savings account. Like I made like $450 in interest. Use a credit card that gives you rewards and pay it off in full. That's an extra $500-$600. That's $1,000 right there. I mean, there's just simple tweaks that you could do.
Yeah, dude, I had to ask this question. I asked this question to this guy I work with. He's really into this. He's really into investing. This dude's really knowledgeable. And we were talking about, do you think that it was like a conscious effort by big business to get financial education removed from school so that people really didn't know these simple things, so that people would embrace a consumerist lifestyle?
No. I think the problem is that people just, like parents and people, just truly don't value personal finance. Because if parents, like if every parent in a freaking community was pissed that the local school, which they pay taxes to, didn't have personal finance education, it would freaking change. So I don't think it's like this conspiracy by businesses. I just think your average person doesn't know jack about personal finances at all. They're completely freaking clueless. And if they don't care, then their kids don't care, you know?
It's confusing to me for this reason. My mom told me flat out she was taught accounting in high school. I never accounting class when I was in high school.
I didn't either.
You know how much better my life would be if I had just been taught basic finance, investing, and accounting in high school? Because, you know, I would have gravitated towards it from the beginning, and I would have been investing from 1996 on, as soon as I turned 18.
I mean, honestly, like I didn't even really consider accounting as a really good career field. Like I had no idea. So I graduated college. I was in the Army for 5 years. So I was 27, and then I was thinking about getting a finance degree, like a master's in finance and economics. And then I was like, maybe not. And then I finally discovered accounting for the first time in my life. And I was like, oh my God, I actually like this. And this actually does pay good money. But before that, I didn't hear anything about it. You know, the only thing I heard was like, oh, it's boring, it's stupid. So that's the only question I had till I was 27 years old.
No, dude, accounting's definitely not stupid. It's, you know, look, I was graduating from college, and I was 39 from USF when I realized I should have majored in accounting, not finance.
Yeah, like it doesn't determine your personality. Like it's a good skill. You want a skill. I mean, you can have whatever personality you want. You know, like I'm not a super meticulous person, but I still know how to do accounting, you know.
Well, if you look at like what most of the high up people in corporations are, they're actually not finance dudes. They're actually accountants.
Yeah, I mean the thing with finance is like it's more about looking in the future. It's like, oh, how do I price a stock and blah 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 blah. But like if you want to understand how a business runs, like how to actually look and read a business, you need accounting. You need to understand how to like really look and understand a balance sheet and an income statement. Because that's how fraud happens, is a lot of the times people just hide crap inside the financial statements, or they'll like misstate it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, only a really experienced accountant would be able to pick out stuff like that. You know, a finance guy's not going to do that.
Well, dude, one of the most valuable skills in the world that people don't even know exists is forensic accounting.
You can work for the FBI, man.
Yeah. Then I don't have to be out. You don't have to be out in the field, like fucking dealing with scumbags. You're just sitting back there. See, you or I would probably be good forensic accountants for this reason. The best cops think like criminals. I'm sure you and I probably, like, if I was sitting there talking to a criminal, I'd be like, when he's trying to tell me something, like, yeah, dude, I already thought of that a long time ago, man. Like my brain literally thinks like a criminal. And
I see, you know,
well, this is what I was thinking about the other day. If you tell me if this is criminal thought, I was thinking about, okay, if we wanted to pay back China for the meddling in our election, even though, yes, I know that we meddle in others' elections, but if we wanted to pay back China for having that professor go up and say that China owns America, that's how I would get them back. I'd be like, oh, you want to say that you own America? Let's introduce you to the Second Amendment. And how we're going to do that is with 3D printed guns. And I would just proliferate that technology on the outside of China so that it eventually makes its way in. I'd be like, oh, those Uyghurs are hard to get into the detention camps now that they're shooting back at you, aren't they? That's terrorism.
It's gonna make its way in. I mean, like, how do you stop technology in the long run? You don't. It's impossible.
Oh, I know that, but it's like, but that's kind of a criminal way to think about something. Like, I'm sitting there. If I was sitting there at the CIA table, I'm like, what can we do? I'm like, listen, dude, give me a 3D printer and send me to Mongolia. I'll have 3D printed lower receivers in Uyghur territory in a month. We'll send them in by fucking like golden eagle that they use to hunt.
Honestly, their government would probably have you killed pretty quickly. I wouldn't actually try that. If
I was out of there, I'm working for the CIA.
They'll drone strike you or something.
Probably they'd be like, "This motherfucker's onto us." But it's like it's like this, man. If you're a forensic accountant, like some of them I've seen that are boring. I'm like, this guy's probably not a good forensic accountant because the good forensic accountant is in there. Like, how did you catch this guy? Well, I just looked at what I would do if I wanted to hide money from the government or in shareholders. This is how I would do it,
Yeah, you just book some fake expenses, That's it. That's all you got to do. There's so many ways. Like, people think accounting is like cut and dry. You can do so many things to like misstate your financial statements. It's not even funny because a lot of it's up to interpretation. Like there's not everything is based on exact rules. Like management has to make estimates on their allowances and stuff, and you can use that to your advantage. Or
depreciate assets at different rates. That's just from my basic knowledge of accounting.
Yeah, I mean, like as long as you're not changing depreciation, that's fine. But like what happens is people like you can either expense something, like let's say you have something that's costing you a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. Well, normally you're supposed to expense that, and that shows in your income statement, and it says, hey, you're losing a lot of money. What you can do is you can just capitalize that expense and then try to expense that over like 30 years. So instead of showing your investors that you're losing money, you just, this is a capital asset. It's actually an asset on my balance sheet, and I expense it over 30 years. So I'm not losing money. What are you talking about? Like there's so many ways.
Dude, that would be funny to see you reading fucking what's the EV company that just got busted for fraud? Nikolai. It'd be funny to watch. It'd be funny to watch you reading Nikolai's balance sheets. They're like just laughing at how they're like.
I mean, there's nothing on. Like, aren't they not making any money? Like, what is on their balance sheet?
Their truck got pushed at a 3% grade down, 3% grade downward, so it looked like the truck was drivable. It was a short seller that found that out. And then you start looking more into the CEO, and the guy's a scam artist. He's got a history of being a scam artist.
I mean, look, if anybody's listening to this, if your company is not even showing like a positive net income, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. Because you need to at least see that a company is profitable on the bottom line before you put your freaking money into it, okay? And TeSzLa, I don't think had any sales. I think it was just a YouTube video or whatever. That was the company. They didn't even have revenue.
Well, I did my recent thing on. I did a recent podcast on Theranos as a lesson to investors, and it's a lesson to actually understand the technology you're investing in too. Because if you with Theranos and them saying that they had this revolutionary blood screening technology. If you would have just spent 2 hours on the internet, you would have known that the like what everything she was saying was BS. That's how literally how, and yeah, that was a
She's a
private
girl.
company,
You can't question her.
right? but I mean, literally, if anybody that was in that private company, like this is why I would have gotten fired from there, or I would have quit and exposed this. But I would have been like, what she's saying doesn't sound right. Like I would have talked to her for 5 minutes and been like, how did this barely functioning half retard develop some revolutionary technology?
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
if I think something is sketchy or fraudulent, like I just have a hard time doing it. Like that's why I can never sell penny stocks or day trading, or because like I mean, I actually worked for a company that sold when I was a financial advisor. They sold like they wanted me to sell garbage products. I quit after 2 months. I just couldn't freaking do it. You know, it was
dude,
so messed up.
do you know how many people in my life have told me that I could make? They're like, dude, you should charge money for the things that you say, and I go, I have bro level investing knowledge. I'm not going to charge anybody money. You know what I mean? That's not right. I'm like that would get into the territory of scamming people. And
I
like
mean,
said,
you can charge for like let's say somebody has no idea how to invest, and you're like, all right, I will FaceTime you, and you talk to me, and I will say, okay, you need to buy freaking index funds, ignore the BS, only put 5% of your portfolio in speculative assets, avoid options, avoid day trading, avoid Bitcoin, whatever. Like that is something legitimate to charge because you're actually giving good value to somebody. But if you're like, buy TeSzLa right now, like, yeah, that's complete BS.
You know, my thing is maybe I could. I prefer to just help people.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, like, you're gonna want to, like, if you're doing this all the time, the whole purpose is to, like, yeah, you enjoy doing it, but you also want to, at least get something out of it. So if somebody's like, "Hey, I'll pay you $50 and let's just talk," and you tell them the truth.
Oh, I would absolutely do that, and I would tell them, like, listen, man, here's the simple facts. Here's the books you need to read. This is what you need to read. But if you don't have the time to do it, I would absolutely go through why probably a targeted date fund is better for you if you don't have a lot of tolerance to volatility. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind looking at somebody and be like, I could set you up a portfolio depending on, but I mean, I would have to tell the person, you're paying me because literally you don't want to spend a couple of days doing research. But if that's what you want, I'll do it. And I'll set you. I won't put somebody in anything. I wouldn't recommend something to anybody that it's actually less risk than I would take. I'm more conservative with other people's money.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's my thought. Like, everywhere I look, every single financial advisor or Dave Ramsey, like, everybody just teaches BS. Like, nobody talks about, like, oh, why don't you just buy index funds and just let them go? And I feel like yeah, of course he did, but there's got to be like a way where you could be like, okay, you pay me $50 or $100, and I will tell you the truth. Here is how you actually do it, because nobody else is doing it. There's literally nobody that I can think of that like literally breaks it down and tells you to avoid financial advisors and all that BS. I don't see that anywhere. Like even Dave Ramsey, like, oh, he's so good with debt. He still tells people to like invest with like these dude bro financial advisors that charge you sales loads and put you in active funds. Like there's nobody out there. Nobody.
Well, that's why I've asked my mom about her financial advisor, and she won't get into the specifics with me. And I'm like,
dude, I mean, my goal in life.
If this dude's got you in loaded mutual funds, I'm going to headbutt him.
I guarantee you he is 100%. Because either they make the money up front or they do it with like higher sales charges. But hey, let's take a quick break. I gotta pee.
Yeah. I gotta pee too. Ugh. What's going on, world? Nobody's watching. And we're giving out the best financial advice. Yeah. I thought of something. Two things.
Tell me, Daddy.
my mom, her and I are talking, and we're talking about like just BSing, and she goes, I don't understand why. She goes, I don't understand why all my stuff sells at the end of the day. Somehow it just got brought up, and I said, stocks and ETFs sell anytime. Mutual funds sell at the end of the day. And she goes, are you sure about that? Because it's not what my financial advisor told me. I go, Mom, index funds sell at the end of the day. ETFs sell anytime. I'm like, they're as liquid as stocks. I'm like, when you execute on your order is executed. And so you're right, man. He might have her in some chargy loaded mutual fund.
I was a financial advisor. I know exactly what he's doing. To the minutest detail, I know exactly what he's doing. And I guarantee you, every time she puts money in, he gets 5% of that. And he's putting her into actively managed mutual funds, 100% guaranteed. And if he's not doing an upfront sales charge, then he's doing what's called C shares or like C funds, which charge you a higher expense ratio. They charge you 12B1 fees, which are like a sales charge. And he gets paid every month or 3 months. And he's just ripping your mom off, dude. Send your mom to me, okay? Send her to Strong.
This is the thing, though. This is the thing, though, about my mom. My mom is extremely stubborn, and I can't possibly know anything that she doesn't know. So it's one of the problems where she's probably convinced herself that this financial advisor is better than her son and won't listen to me.
Because obviously he has her interest, or he has more of her interest in heart than you do. He cares more about your mom's financial future.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah. So yeah, and that's what alarmed me at the time when she said that to me. I'm like, you have a financial advisor. How do you not know this? Because that's what stuck out in my head. I'm like, I would have thought a good financial advisor would have went in there and said, like, okay, you pay me $200 for my time. I'm just going to break this down for you. Here's what we're going to do. You know, no cost index or passive index funds are the best. They got the lowest expense ratio. Here's what an expense ratio is. Here's some basic financial knowledge. But yeah, you're probably right. It's probably eating into her money.
Like no, I am 100% right. Trust me. Like I did this. I know exactly what they're doing. Because like he can't make money unless she's paying him like up front. You know, if she writes up a check every time she goes in. If she's not doing that, yeah, she's paying the sales loads and all that BS. And like, my wife, her aunt put her in the same crap. Her aunt works for like Primerica. Oh my god, dude! Like I looked at the mutual funds. Huh?
Go. I gotta hear this. You looked at the
no. So I looked at them and I was like, okay, you could open your own Roth and literally pay 0% with like Fidelity mutual funds and no sales charges. She put her in like some random tech fund that had like a 5% sales load and it had a back end load. So if we sell the shares, we get a freaking sales charge on the final balance. So they charged her up front.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actively managed so that it's higher. You're obviously paying a much higher expense ratio. And if you sell the freaking shares, you get charged. So it's like a triple,
5%, 5% of your money up front.
Yeah, dude. When I sold when I was selling this crap, we've charged 5.75%. And then we put you in like usually actively managed funds that charge like almost 1% a year. It was ridiculous.
You're paying 7% of your money to these dudes.
Yes. And like I did a video about this. If you maxed out your Roth over 30 years, yeah, it's like a $300,000 difference. Like it's insane.
Holy shit, dude! I had no idea that the financial advisor field was so dirty.
Dude, it dirty. Like I freaking like it is my life goal. Like if I ever make money, it's because I destroy the financial advisor industry. It's scummy. Like the company I worked for, they would put you in these loaded mutual funds, so you'd pay like 5.75% up front. And then eventually we would try to transition you to our like asset management solution, which was like we actually had like investment professionals that helped or that like developed investments for our clients. So we would try to put you into those once you had a certain amount of money. And the expense ratio every year was like 2% when you factor in all the fees. And the advisor, their whole goal was just to get you into that fund. And then the advisor would just get paid every 3 months a certain percentage. And they wouldn't even do anything. They didn't manage it. They did nothing. As long as they put you in that, they would get their commission. And then every 3 months they would get a check. That's all they would do.
Oh, dude, I couldn't do that, man. It's like, dude, I wish it's like I explain this to people. Like when people watch that Chris Kyle video or the Chris Kyle movie, and he talks about the sheepdog, and the wolf. I always explain to people there's nothing to do with being a tough guy. It's just a sheepdog looks out for the flock, man, because they have all the same instincts as the wolf. And it's like, I have all the same instincts where I could fucking lie to people. Like I have the gift of gab. I could go into a bar and I've done it. Like literally in Holland, when I was there with two of my buddies from the Air Force, my one buddy goes, "You are the only person I've ever met that can fly to a different continent and have people buying you drinks at the bar." So I have all these instincts. I just don't act on them because I know they're gross instincts. You know, so it bothers me that people do this to other people. Like, you know, it's like my buddy's got a friend who's a stockbroker, and my buddy was like, "You'd get along with this dude. You guys would talk about the stock market." I go, "We wouldn't get along." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Here's what's going to happen. He's going to start trying to schmooze me about his ability to invest, and I'm going to look at him and be like, I bet you can't outperform a simple index fund." And I'm going to look at him and be like, "I'll bet you $1,000 over the next 15 years, or whatever amount you want to bet over the next 15 years that you can't outperform the simple index fund minus fees." And he's going to get pissed at me, is what I said to my buddy, because he knows he can't.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't really understand investing. They're literally taught a sales pitch, which is what I did. I was literally
Yeah,
taught.
when you said the script thing, I was disturbed by that, dude. I was like,
dude, I can't even explain to you how disgusted I feel about these people. Like it's nasty, and that's why like I'm actually so passionate in my videos. And I actually posted one of my financial advisor videos in this military forum. I got freaking banned because like I think most of the moderators were financial advisors. And they were like, "Oh my god, you can't say that," and they freaking banned me.
well, that's why I have such hatred for Jeremy Lefebvre from Financial Education, is because I watched one of his commercials and there was a Coast Guard guy in there talking about how, you know, how much the course has benefited from. I'm like, you have the fucking TSP.
If you're not maxing your TSP, you shouldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah,
Anything.
and you know, I was like, bro, if there's one thing in this world that will draw my ire, is when you take advantage of another person that was in the military. I actually take it personal. Maybe I shouldn't think that way, but I do. I take it extremely personal. I'm like, this is a person that could have possibly picked me up after my leg got blown off. You're taking advantage of them.
Well, it depends on the service member.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's people in the military I despised when I was with them, but I mean, it's like I'm just generalizing as a group. I don't like anybody that takes advantage of other people, of their ignorance. I just don't like it. It just, like, you draw just disdain from me when you act like that.
Yeah, and that's 90% of people out there in the financial industry. The financial industry is disgusting. Like it literally serves no purpose other than just to steal money from people. And the funny thing is, even rich people, like a lot of rich people will invest with like hedge funds, and they'll try to find these hotshot fund managers. Even rich people get duped by this. Like it's not just poor people.
I'm glad that you brought that up, right? So you know, I love Rogan's podcast. Anyways, I was watching the Rogan podcast with Kevin Hart, and he was talking about what he could do in the African American community to help them out of poverty. And he goes, I want to teach them about investing. He starts talking about Starbucks, and he's like, you know, Starbucks, it's this. Isn't this a company that you would want to own? And I'm looking and I'm like, my dream would be just to sit in the bar, listening to a dude like Kevin Hart talk about that, to like Rogan, if I went to Austin or whatever, and just be like, well, let me tell you why it may or may not be a good investment. It's definitely a quality company, but it could be overvalued at the time. These are the things that you don't understand. And it's like, I was sitting there and I was like, I could literally break this down for the guy, how he could help people that he wants to help. And then it also showed me this guy has no idea what he's doing with his own finances.
Yeah, and he's on a podcast talking to millions of people.
Yeah, you just buy Starbucks and you profit. Well, let me explain irrational exuberance to you. You're probably getting sold. Someone's probably telling you to buy TeSzLa right now. You know, I just, you're right though. I mean, that would make me feel less guilty about FaceTiming somebody for $50. Like, dude, I'll give you $50.
No, like if you charge somebody, let's say, and I'm not saying you should do this, but let's say you charge somebody $1,000 and you say, I'm going to call you and you're going to do exactly what I tell you. And if you deviate, then you're an idiot. And then you say, buy term life insurance, invest in, VT index fund or a, target retirement fund, whatever. Have 3 months of cash or 6 if you have a family and a house, and you invest consistently and max out your 401k and your IRA. If you charge them $1,000 for that and they listen to you, you have done more and you have saved them way more than $1,000 than any other person could possibly do. So I think that's actually a good thing. Like, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's like it's what again, Jeremy from Financial Education, he's up there. Why I don't invest in mutual funds? I think I can get a better return. And I'm like, then you're a fool.
I mean, even if you do, you don't know what's going to happen. And there's so many like other factors. It's like, okay, well, there's tax inefficiencies. If I freaking sell this stock, I'm paying a shit ton of money. Yeah, the bid-ask ratio. I mean, you're going to have a little transaction cost there. There's just so much that goes on that you don't even or most people don't even factor in. So yeah, mutual funds are pretty freaking good, especially if they track like the world stock markets. No,
dude, that's the one place that I disagreed with Sven Carlin on. This is the one place that I really do disagree with him. He's not a big fan of index funds. That's fine for a guy like yourself that has a PhD in finance and really knows how to value a company. I really do think you can probably get a greater than average return. But the problem becomes if you're a normal person that works a normal job, like you and I with the TSP, we'd be fools not to max out that tax advantaged account, and we can't buy individual stocks. Then you run up the problem of time. If you work a 40-hour-a-week job and you have kids, how much time do you really have to sit around and do the proper valuation on a company? Read the balance sheets, listen in on their conference calls, sit there and run the numbers. How much time do you have? You don't have that time when the little one wants to go to fucking soccer practice.
I mean, you don't. And so I'm a fan of Walmart. Like, I love Walmart stock. I actually love Walmart. I go there all the time. Yeah, I could be totally wrong. I could be totally freaking wrong about it. Like, maybe they are going to fail and Amazon's going to crush them. At the end of the day, you don't know. Even if you have a very good feeling about it, you can be totally freaking wrong, which is why you diversify, because you don't know.
Well, that's the terrifying thing that I'm seeing on YouTube, where people are quoting this they're quoting one of Warren Buffett's quotes where he said, diversification is a hedge against ignorance. I'm like, I don't think you actually understand what Warren Buffett was really saying there. You keep saying that means that you don't need to diversify. But, anything can be ignorance. Let's talk about coronavirus. There's ignorance. I didn't know that there was going to be a worldwide pandemic that I actually don't believe is as serious as people are making it out to be. But you didn't know that. You couldn't see that. That came out of left field.
Couldn't do it.
Crush. If you had 4 stocks in your portfolio, that could have crushed your portfolio permanently.
Yeah, and the thing with trying to time the market is like, even if you sell at the right time, you have to buy back in at the right time. And it's just so hard to really know. It's impossible. You don't know what's going on. Like, you can't.
No, I agree with you. But this is one thing that I say that is an unscientific approach to investing, but that what you really need to do. I think I told you I have Bank of New York Mellon stock because my favorite uncle died when I was in Iraq, and he left me some Bank of New York stock. I track that stock so much, I know its personality. So I know where to buy it or sell it. Just, and it's really just an emotional thing for me because it's a connection to him. But like, because of that, I go, for me, when Bank of New York drops below $35, I buy a couple shares.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, write that down. If it goes below 35, put your entire life savings into it. Okay?
Yeah. No, I buy a couple of shares, and it's really is just a sentimental thing to me that I keep track of him because it reminds me of my Uncle Jack. But I mean, that is another. There's no metric to actually explain that. But if you watch a stock enough and it's a quality company, Bank of New York has been around since the late 1700s. If you're constantly watching Walmart, you'll get an idea for its personality.
Yeah, and I don't even watch Walmart, but I know that like the next time there's any kind of crash, if there's any like 10, 20% drop, hell yeah, I'm going to throw some money into it because I am a true believer in Walmart over any company. It actually affects my life. Like I literally I spend like, okay, I pay my mortgage, I pay my bills, and then I spend the rest of my money at Walmart. Like that is literally what I do.
Dude, so I do all my shopping at Walmart, but Walmart's been pissing me off lately because I haven't been having. Every time I go and I try to get Hanes black T-shirts, I'm like, fucking Walmart, and you got no Hanes black T-shirts. What's going on? Like, I realize there's a pandemic, but is there a T-shirt shortage? Because I keep it simple, man. I've told you, like, I have 2 pairs of jeans, and I wear black T-shirts till there's holes in them.
Oh, dude, I actually have a funny story. So I always give my wife crap because, like, her mom always buys junk, and she has, like, a tendency to buy junk. And I'm like, I don't understand why you women always buy junk. And she's like, oh, women don't buy junk. So today we were going to go to Walmart to like buy groceries. And before that, we were going to like, we decided to drop off like some excess junk that we had at like a local store. And this store like takes people's junk and then tries to sell it at a profit. So we go to the store and I start looking at the people in line. And literally every person was a woman. So like a woman would come and she would like drop off her junk. And then I'd look and there'd be another car coming up. I'd be like, oh, there's another woman. And then I'd look and another car would come. Oh, there's another woman. Like, dude, it was just all women dropping off their junk.
Dude, you do realize that that's a stand-up bit.
Yeah, but I have a job.
If you actually thought it out how to present it, like I know that comes from a place of love where you're teasing your wife, but if you think about how to actually write that, that's an actual stand-up bit right there. Where you're like, dude, I went into this place to drop off stuff. It basically is, who I didn't see in line dropping off junk? Men. You started off where it's like some argument about like, baby, you're always buying shit, and then I don't know. I would have to sit there and think it out, but
hey, you can take it from me and use it, man.
No, that's your story.
I mean, I think I could do stand-up comedy, but
I think
I got so much going on. I'm a tutor, okay? The students need me.
What?
I'm a tutor.
Yeah, but here's the thing, bro. I told you this before. If strongman personal finance takes off, and let's say you got 50,000 subscribers, and now you can do events where you talk about finance, you're going to basically have to become a stand-up comedian. If you ever see Peter Lynch giving his telling his story, it's stand-up comedy for finance nerds.
Yeah, I mean, like I work best when I know I don't have a script.
So, like, I tell anybody, if you have to do any amount of public speaking, you want to start doing stand-up. Even if it's just you want to be a public speaker, is you just need to get up there. And if you can get any amount of laughs, because look, if you have fans, they're obviously going to be there to talk about accounting and finance, right? Now you have your audience. Now you can make jokes about finance and accounting that the layperson doesn't understand because you've been doing stand-up. Like finance is hard to get across. I've tried to do some jokes on it, tried to do a joke about quantitative easing, and the audience just sat there. When I walked off stage, my buddy goes, yeah, man, quantitative easing is probably above the average person's knowledge. I'm like, yeah, that's why I abandoned it. I abandoned the yeah, pretty much. But I mean, that's I just you will need to develop that muscle.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've actually developed the gift of gab by doing YouTube videos. And before, like when I first started YouTube, you know, I was like really like tense, like, oh my God, I can't make any mistakes. I'm so nervous. But now it's like I can just shoot the shit and I don't even think about it. It just comes naturally. So I almost feel like, you know, I could go out on a stage, you know?
It's a muscle. It's a muscle. And also, the one thing you have to do is prepare to bomb. You're successful when you go up for the first couple of times. If you just go up and you act like yourself and if you get one laugh in 5 minutes, you were successful.
So you're saying I'm not going to be a massive hit on my first stand-up?
Nobody is. Wow. Certain B-dubs are. Like, I'm pretty sure Dave Chappelle probably went up there and crushed it. But, like, the average person, like, there's comedians that I watch around here that are really good that go up and they test new material. And they're like, guess I didn't really think that out too well. They have to bring the audience back because their new material didn't do well. Well, the first time you go up, every single thing you do is new material. Really is. It really is. The first time you do it, it really is just going to do jujitsu as a white belt. The first time you walk into class, you're merely trying to survive the entire time. That's all you're trying to do on stage. Survive.
Hey, I mean, it takes balls to go up there, man. Like, a lot of people are way too scared to even, like, remotely present themselves out to the public. So just going out there is a pretty good accomplishment.
Dude, it's hard. Like, I have to, like, walk away because before I go up, you start to get the butterflies. Like, sometimes people will catch me doing crazy shit like shadow boxing outside just to relieve the fucking the tension. I'm like, fucking, like, I had one buddy like, what are you
just do push-ups, bro. Do some jumping jacks.
I'm like, I'm shadow boxing, man. And he's like, why? I'm like, it's the dance, it's the move, man.
Dude, if I had known you, so I actually went on a honeymoon like 6 months ago, and I went down to Florida. I would have come and watched one of your stand-ups.
Yeah, dude, that would have been awesome. I don't know if there was really a lot going on 6 months ago, though. We were at the height of the pandemic, weren't we?
Yeah, so I went down to Orlando, and there actually were like bars open downtown. So like we went down there, and there's like this big ass like lake in the middle of downtown, and then this nice bar that was I forgot what it was called, but it was like next to the lake, and it was full of people. So,
well, dude, here's the great thing about Florida, and this is the great thing about red states. We're like, yeah, we're gonna work though. We're gonna stay open. It's almost like you don't have the nanny state down here where they're just telling you, like, you need to lock down outdoor restaurants, even though we have no scientific proof that outdoor restaurants transmit the coronavirus. Like that's what I like about it down here. They're like, just go with your level of risk. Go out in the world.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a very conservative guy, and I like the heat. So anywhere in the deep South would be perfect for me. So like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, like all those states are places that I would love to live. But right now, I mean, like I'm just stuck in this state because where I work, it's in Virginia.
Yeah. Could you transfer?
So there is a center down in Florida that I could transfer to, but I don't think it's in like a really good area. I think it's like east of Orlando. I mean, I could consider it, but you know, before I do that, I want to like move up a couple GS ranks and get established. And then it's
No,
like, okay, maybe there's a promotion down there I could take. But if I could, maybe.
Dude, that's what it's like this. I'll put it to you. An Air Force buddy. He's a petroleum engineer out in Texas. I go, I was thinking about moving out to Texas at some point. He goes, good. We need people like you. That's what he said. He's like, get down here. He goes, the state's getting flooded with people from California.
Honestly, like I wouldn't recommend you move to Texas because it's a very ugly state. And yeah, it's very conservative and blah 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 blah. But it's just like a bunch of just like empty land. Like there's nothing there. And like the only places to have fun, like you have to go to the the liberal cities to do anything. They're super liberal. Whereas like in Florida, like it's not like ultra overwhelmingly liberal. You go there, there's normal people, and it's not ugly. It's actually a decent looking state.
Well, I stand up buddy was telling me that like comedy had gotten woke in Orlando. I go, what? This guy is a 300-pound gay man. And he goes, they booed me off stage because I was saying things that were unwoke.
Yeah, I mean Orlando, maybe. I mean, like any big city, you're gonna run into that. Yeah. But like Austin, no. I mean, it's in Texas, but it's super freaking liberal.
Yeah, I mean, like I had to. I said this to my brother. I go, you know me, man. I'm extremely socially liberal, and he's like, yeah, you are. Personally, I think being socially liberal is actually the conservative point of view in that, like, I don't care what other people do. It's not my business. Like, two dudes want to get married. I never understood how there was even opposition to that. I was like, okay. My belief is that we should all freedom to the maximum level of freedoming without stepping on somebody else's toes. And so I was like, okay, I don't even know why we're arguing over this. Like drugs legal? Well, yeah, we should figure it out. I mean, the war on drugs hasn't worked. It's not my business to tell you how to live. But somehow that gets interpreted as socially liberal. But even if you say that I'm center left, the left has gone so far left that I'm way right.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm pretty much right on everything. Like I am the picture perfect, like pretty far right guy. Like I'm not a big fan of the drug war. I'm not a fan of abortion, gay marriage. I'm a little iffy on that. There's all sorts of things that I'm really opposed to, and I have my reasons, which I would talk to you not live. But
yeah, no,
I do have my reasons.
Much, like where we both work, it's too much to get into. But it's like my thing on the whole thing is like, as long as you have a well thought out reasoned approach about why you have formulated your opinion and it's logical, I accept it. I might not agree with it, but I accept it. there's also like when I get into certain things, I go, well, there's the practicality of enforcing it too. You know what I mean? Like I'll do the abortion thing and then we won't talk about it. But it's like I go with it like, okay, look, maybe the proper position is there shouldn't be any abortion. I don't live in a perfect world, and I know that women will still get them. I'd rather have it legal and regulated, but I accept everybody's position on it. And when certain people look at me and they go, yeah, complete term abortions, I go, no, I adamantly disagree with that. You just lost me right there. I can't go down that road with you. I'm not going to agree to it. But I mean, that's like basically the level of my politics is I won't bother you as long as you're not hurting anybody if you don't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not like 100% like, oh, no abortions ever. But like if the kid has like severe mental disabilities or they have severe medical problems and you can detect that, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But I
If you're
oppose the
seven
idea.
months, if you're 7 months pregnant and you're coming to me with getting an abortion, you can fuck all the way off with that. I do
Yeah,
not agree.
I oppose the idea that that's not a human being. Like it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is like
Yeah.
7 months. Like, come on. Like, oh yeah, it's a clump of cells. It's bullshit. You can't argue that. But like, if it's like month 2 or month 3, and you're like, okay, we've detected that it has a high likelihood of Down syndrome or some severe medical problem. That I'm not really opposed to that. But in general, like if you get pregnant, you're gonna raise your freaking kid.
Well,
Unless it's
my
a problem.
also with that view, I'll look at anybody and be like, my money should not go to Planned Parenthood. If my tax money, if I'm working, shouldn't go to pay for an abortion. I think that's an elective thing. I don't think that I should be in any because if I have to work, what you're actually doing is forcing me to work for the government for free to support something. I shouldn't have to do that.
Oh, 100
That's where
percent.
I'll
I mean, like,
disagree with people too.
there's always these arguments. It's like, oh, people can't afford them. It's like bull crap. People can afford whatever they want. They can buy a new car. They can buy a huge house. They can buy iPhones, but they can't afford an abortion. Really? I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't want to be forced into paying for anything that's basically elective. You know what I mean on that? Like I wish I could think of any. I don't. I'm smoking right now, and I know I need to quit, but I don't think my tax money should be going to cigarette companies. I don't understand why they're subsidized. Why do I have to work for that company for free?
Well, I mean, it's all about special interest. Like that's all.
Yeah.
That's all government does. Government supports people that have political influence that have special interests. And if you have a lot of money, you can convince your population to vote for a certain thing that benefits you. That's just how it is. That's why like I am so against any kind of like big government because it always gets hijacked by special interests that direct money towards the people that have the money or people that have the special interests.
This is my problem. This would be the crux of my problem in with government in and of what I've seen. Remember when I said socialism encourages viciousness? Well, you know as well as I do that 90% of the people that work in government, or whatever the number is, are great people that ethically do the right thing. Problem is with a bureaucracy is a lot of times those aren't the people that rise to high levels. Those are the people that they're good people. They just go to work and they just want to work and they want to go home. And then you have the people that work in government that want to play politics, and they're the ones that somehow fail upwards to the highest level of incompetence.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I could talk all day about how the government promotion system and just all of it, like it's all corrupt. Like I honestly think that a lot of government employees are extremely overpaid. Number one, and I think we do have too many benefits. Number two, and number three, like the idea that you can't fire us, it leads to incompetence because it's like, hey, you can't fire me. I can do whatever I want. You know, I'm already in the system. Like there's just so much wrong in the federal government, but you know, don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we should probably get off this subject before somebody with real power decides we're canceled.
Nah, honestly, man. Here's the thing: we are so secure in our jobs that even if like we just shat on the federal government for an hour, I don't think we would get fired. I really don't.
Well, I'm not going to tempt fate. I know that.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah. All right. I'll pause this.
We can talk offline about that subject.
Yeah. We'll talk offline sometime about that. Forgot to turn that back on. All right, dude. I forgot to okay, we're back. I forgot to record the last 45 minutes on my podcast, but whatever. No, like as far as there look, when we're talking about politics and shit, there's no possible way that anybody can construe me as anti-government either. Like I recognize the need for government. Problem is with government, you get some people in there that just shouldn't have that much power over other people. Here's the thing. Plato said the measure of a man is what he does with power. I don't know that I trust myself with power over other human beings. That's why I just don't want it. And it becomes...
If I was in power, I'd be a nasty man.
I wouldn't be. If you gave me Dr. Manhattan's power, I'd be like, I'm your new dictator, and I dictate that we all have fun. I'd be like, I dictate that communism isn't going to happen.
Oh yeah, like I would definitely I would hunt down socialists and communists. No question whatsoever.
this is what my idea was, dude. If I had a show, if I could get to the point where I got my own YouTube channel, this is something I want to do. I want to I want to interview a bunch of socialists. I'd be like, okay, we're going to play an experiment. Are you willing to do that? I'm going to pick 20 people, right? And all they have to do, and everybody's going to get $100. And we're going to do this for like 3 weeks. I'm going to be like, all you have to do is stack me a pyramid of bricks. Okay? So the first day, everybody's going to go out there and everybody's going to participate and stack me a pyramid of bricks. But I'm not going to monitor anything. The only thing that matters is when I show up 3 hours later, the pyramid is made. So what people are going to figure out is that they can take off and come back. And I'm going to interview them every day as this goes on till you're to the point where they're like, what? There's 5 of us doing all the work and we're not getting anything extra. Like, yeah, you're a capitalist. Socialism doesn't work. That's literally the first experiment with socialism happened in the United States. I forget the name of the colony, but they said everybody is going to share.
I think it was Jamestown.
Okay, all right, yeah, you know about it too. Yeah, I knew I liked you, but yeah, till the governor came out and said, nah, we're going to do this little thing where like you get the rewards for what you do because it encourages laziness.
Yeah, so it's funny because I live very close to Jamestown. Like I'm like 45 minutes away. So like that is taught there. It's like, hey, like before they changed it, it was communally owned. It's like, okay, everybody needs to pitch in and farm the community land. And they freaking starved. And then they were like, okay, we're going to divide the land into separate plots. And this is your plot. And if you don't farm your crap, you're going to starve, boy. And guess what happened? Everybody freaking worked their asses off and plotted their land. And the colony actually survived.
Well, this is one thing. I'm going to get canceled when I say this. I'm now beginning to oppose the minimum wage.
You should. I mean, like that's a common sense thing.
As I get older, I'm becoming more and more conservative. But he's like, when it's like, who do you think? Yeah.
This book.
Is that Thomas Sowell? Okay, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of Thomas Sowell.
He knows what he's talking about, man.
He's pretty much, the guy is brilliant. Here's one thing that a lot of the comedians in the community down here, they work in the service industry. And they're talking about how is it that we're, fighting about this $15 an hour minimum wage. And I'm like, listen, man, you do stand-up comedy, which is the ultimate libertarian argument for no minimum wage that you could possibly have. Because if somebody had to pay you $5 an hour to get on stage at your first open mic, who do you think's going to... So nobody's going to pay you to do that. So now you can't test if your material's funny. So in stand-up comedy, in the beginning, you give up your labor for free so that you create a market later on. That's how that works. Yeah. And it's like,
crazy.
if you want to look at who the minimum wage favors, it's corporations like Walmart. And all they do is they pass that cost on to you as the consumer.
So when I was a financial advisor, I'll tell you exactly how I thought. So I had an employee or a contractor that did my paperwork and like helped me prepare for my clients. And I was paying her like $900 a month. And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's crazy. And I thought about maybe like trying to cut her hours, but I was like, you know what? I can afford that. That's fine. But what if there was a minimum wage that required me to pay her like $1,600 an hour. Well, at that point, it's like, well, or $1,600 a month. Well, by that point, I can't really afford that. So I would actually have to cut her hours to get it down to the $900 a month. So it doesn't matter if you raise the minimum wage. If a business can't afford to pay that pay rate, they're going to have to reduce your hours. And like, I literally lived that experience. So I understand exactly why that happens. It's common sense.
Dude, something's crackling on your mic when you talk. It's been going on for 2 hours. Is that happening when I talk?
No. Hold on.
So I was going to say, like, if we have actually somebody watching this live stream, they probably want to punch both of us in the face at this point.
How's this?
Way better.
Yeah, it was my cheap headphones.
Yeah, I think they were like knocking around on your stuff. But no, you're 100% right. Like before I really started looking into the minimum wage, it was one of those things where out of ignorance, had you asked me, should we have a minimum wage, I would have said yes. But the more I explore it, the more I start to think this isn't compassion. This favors large corporations. It doesn't favor the little guy. The little guy can start a business, hire a bunch of 16-year-olds, and he's like, I'm going to pay him $1 an hour. Now, you might look at that and say, you're exploiting him. But I'm not. I'm teaching him how to work. You know, and then the kid that works hardest and learns the business now other people want to steal him from me. So I got to pay him more money. I'm negotiating now. It's like, well, I have this, and this skill, and this guy over here is offering me this, but I like working for you. He's offering me $5 an hour, but I prefer working for you. Now can I have $4.25? And I look at him like, okay, well, this guy brings me $7 of value into my company. So of course, I'm going to hire him. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to retain him for $4.25 because that makes me profit and it makes him profit.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's always this constituency of people that, you know, they're 30 or 40 or 50 and they have no skills. And they're like, well, you know, I'm never going to progress. So the only thing I can do is to try to raise the minimum wage. And I don't care if it hurts businesses or any like younger generations. It doesn't matter. All they want to do is benefit themselves right now. So that's why you have these like pushes for minimum wage. And then it's pretty easy to like propagandize minimum wage. It's like, oh, look at this poor family. This person is deprived. Like, how could you let this baby starve? So like that kind of plays into the popularity of it too. And like, isn't it the case that Florida has $15 minimum wage now? I thought they passed that.
We were voting on it.
I think y'all passed that, man.
I think they did too. And I think I'm going to get ostracized because I voted against it.
I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid. Like, unless you produce $15 of production, your employer is not going to hire you.
Well, that's how we got into the situation where we outsourced our labor to China. You know, in the 1950s and 60s, we had extremely low minimum wage, but yet we paid the highest wages in the world.
Yeah, because you're paid based on your productivity. Yeah. It's not. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how much production you make. So if you can produce a lot of stuff, even if you're paid more, but you produce more than anybody else can on a per hour basis, that makes you valuable. So you could actually get paid more money for the same job that somebody else could do in like India if you produce 10 times the amount of stuff based on your skills. That's how it works.
Well, it's like this. Even though the federal working for the federal government is not a capitalistic endeavor, it's a socialist endeavor. My boss said to me one day, he goes, "You're the only dude that doesn't have to be here, except you work harder than everybody." And I go, "Yeah, because I got a fucking work ethic, dude. I take pride in what I do. You know what I mean? Even if it's beneath my skill level, I still take pride in what I do." I've really begun to believe that it doesn't matter what you do. The old adage, doesn't matter what you do, be the best at it, or be the consistent guy. The adage is true. Like, do the work.
Yeah, but that's hard, man. That requires being tired and being consistent. It's tough. Why would you want to do that when you can just vote in free money?
Because, all right, I'll play this. You play devil's advocate, and I'll keep going. Because there's benefit in suffering.
No, so I agree with that, but don't you
No,
think?
no, I know you do. I know you do. We see eye to eye. I want you to play the
No. I'm playing devil's advocate. So here you go.
Okay.
So in American society, you have people that are highly skilled and they make a lot of money because they're compensated for their skill. Well, there's some people that are, they're just literally incapable of learning math. How do you keep those people at a certain level of standard of living where they don't revolt or cause chaos? Because there's some people that just can't do math. How do you take care of those people?
Well, I would also say in a capitalistic society, there's a lot more charity. Yeah, certain people are greed pigs, but the more okay, here's an example. Did you see the little boy who went and he asked Santa for a Nerf gun and Santa told him no?
Yeah.
Hey, guess what I bought him today?
It's like woke Santa.
Yeah, woke
Did you
Santa.
buy him a
Guess
Nerf
what
gun?
Yes, and I'm going to mail it to him. I got the guy's address. You know what I mean? Me being in a position that I'm in, luckily, living below my means, living below the money I make, I can now afford to be generous and buy that little boy, even though ultimately at the end of the day, his father's a police officer, so he probably makes pretty good money. But it's just all right, you want to make a little boy cry on Christmas because you don't want him to have a Nerf gun? Okay, motherfucker. Now I'm going to go drop $40 on a Nerf gun for the kid. Because I can afford to do it.
Didn't the dad not do anything about that? Like, I think the dad was just like, "Oh, it's okay, son." Like, I would have been like, "Hey, kiss my ass, Santa."
What's the guy gonna do? He's a police officer. I think just his mom was there, wasn't it?
I thought maybe the dad was there. I mean, I saw the video for like 30 seconds, but
well, woke Santa because I got disposable income. I bought him. He was 4 years old, and I'm going to tell you the truth. If he was 7, I'd be sending a BB gun to his house. I had a BB gun at 7 and 8 years old.
Haven't you seen A Christmas Story? The kid got his eye shot out or something.
Yeah, it's the second greatest Christmas movie ever behind Die Hard.
The second greatest?
The second greatest.
No, the greatest movie is The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
I've never seen it. I'll go and watch it. Are you going to argue? Are you going to seriously argue that is a better Christmas movie than Die Hard?
Yeah, honestly, yes. Dude,
okay, I'll watch it. If you're making that argument, I've got to indulge and watch it.
Yeah, dude, The Santa Claus is like the classic Christmas movie. So in my family, we had a tradition. Every Christmas Eve, we watched The Santa Claus. It is that good. It's that good.
And
even the sequels aren't that bad.
I might have misspoke too because I forgot to throw in Bad Santa.
I mean, the Bad Santa was funny, but the Santa Claus with Tim Allen is probably one of the best Christmas movies that ever was made, by far.
All right. I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
You will not be disappointed.
But how do you take care of these people? You're going to take care of these people through charity. If a business has more money and they're generating more income, the people equate capitalism with ruthlessness. There's nothing more ruthless than communism. There's nothing. 200 million bodies in the last century. 42 times it's been attempted and 42 times it's failed. You know, I get older and I look around and I see what it is. It's, you know, you're going to have a business owner who hires a kid with Down syndrome solely because it makes him feel good because he has the extra money there. And companies have done that in the past before the social justice movement came along.
But how do you guarantee that every single person is provided for? Because somebody might give charity to this person or that person, but if you don't have a centralized government that provides, some kind of either health insurance or sustainability to everybody, how do you guarantee that every person's not taken care of?
I like it. I like the argument. This is an amazing argument that I can defeat easily. I can't guarantee that. Life gives you no guarantees. What I can guarantee you, and I like the face, what I can guarantee you is that you will be poorer under a socialist or communist society.
How would I be poor? I would have guaranteed health care. Guaranteed
is good.
Hmm?
You ever seen the old bread lines in the Soviet Union versus
that is just capitalist propaganda, okay?
But listen, I can explain the difference between communism and capitalism with fidget spinners. No bureaucrat could have ever predicted that fidget spinners would have made an individual rich. If you would have walked around and said, hey, look at this thing that I can dupe consumerists into buying this. Now that dude never has to work again.
So I have a question. So would Amazon Prime with same day delivery, would that exist under a communist system?
I can't with 100% certainty say that it wouldn't, but I can with 99.999% accuracy. If communism would have produced it, Stalin would have had same day delivery while you were starving from the collectivist farm reforms.
If you think about it, it's like, wow, there's a company. You literally click some buttons, and in 4 hours, there's something at your doorstep. Do you really think that would ever happen under any communist country? It's insane. Of course not.
Obviously not. But China. Well, my friends, China is actually not a communist country. China is an authoritarian communist dictatorship that runs on capitalism and theft.
I mean, it's really not a communist. It's a dictatorship. That's what it is.
Yeah, dude, it failed under Mao. Mao had to when 70 million Chinese people starved, Mao had to be like, well, maybe we should let some guys grow some stuff on their farms and keep it. Yeah, capitalism. I would have looked at him and said, Chairman Mao, capitalism. We already solved this.
Yeah, China is, in some ways, it's more capitalist than America. I mean,
oh, it is. Well, I say this shocks people. I don't know if we've talked about it before because we just get drunk and talk about investing. But the shocked look on people's faces when I tell them that the Scandinavian countries don't have democratic socialism, and then I'm like, in many ways, they're more capitalist than we are. Like, what's your evidence of that? Go to the John Stossel report on YouTube right now, because he has several videos where the prime minister of Denmark is saying, we are not democratic socialists, we are capitalists with a strong social safety net.
Yeah, I mean, like, democratic socialism, at least the Bernie Sanders style, is extremely insane when you compare it to the rest of the world. Because, like, he basically wants to guarantee everything. And the more guarantees you have, the more taxes you have, and the less economic growth you have. And if you look at Europe and you compare it to what he wants, he's actually more radical in many ways than the Europeans. Like, he would completely bankrupt the country if he passed every single one of his reforms.
Absolutely. Bernie Sanders was so lazy, he got kicked off a communist commune.
Here's the thing. Here's what I want to ask people. So Europe is so socialist and they're so amazing. But do you know the European capital gains tax rates? You know, you look at each country. Do you know what those are? And do you know what the dividend tax rates are? And you compare those tax rates, you compare those to like the income tax rates, it's the workers that get screwed by their own socialism because they pay such high tax rates if they, achieve any modicum of decent income. Whereas the capital gains rates and dividend rates in most countries, they're not that high. So it's always the worker that gets screwed by the freaking, social democracy tax system. Always.
Well, dude, I've come more and more to this. People would call me a radical for saying this. People should pay taxes, corporations shouldn't.
No, I don't think they should. Or they should be extremely minimal.
Yeah, that's my opinion. What do you mean corporations shouldn't pay taxes? Install a flat tax. I pay 15, 20% of my income. Everybody pays 15 to 20% of their income, whatever it is. I don't care about your progressive tax system. I don't think it works. And corporations, hey, you don't pay taxes anymore.
Think about this. If corporations didn't pay any tax, wouldn't you want to become a corporation? Yes. And if you did, how do you become a corporation? Well, you have to sell people a product that they want. And that actually motivates you to develop or sell a product that people actually want to buy. Like, it's all about incentives. So, of course, having extremely low corporate taxes incentivizes people to, instead of working a job and doing nothing. Well, if I become a corporation, I could make way more money by paying less taxes. And they think about how they could become a corporation.
And then little business, small business, right? That kid that we were talking about before, who we didn't have a minimum wage, we'll just say he worked at a pizza shop. Well, he learned a very valuable skill working for this guy, how to run a pizza shop. And then, at a certain point, this kid who started when he was 16 or 15, whatever, he's now 26 years old, and he looks at his boss and he's like, hey, brother, thanks for all the lessons. I'm starting my own pizza shop. And if he does better than his boss, we get more pizza. It's just, I actually don't see the arguments against it. Maybe I try to understand them. I read
You're
them.
too educated. That's the problem. You understand it too much. Like think about the average person that's just like, oh, I saw this commercial and there's people starving in America and there's billionaires. Like that's just not fair. And that's all they think about. Like there's no in-depth analysis or understanding how profits work. Like there's just nothing except like, oh, that's bad because I saw a commercial on TV. Like that's literally it. That's all people think about.
The only socialist thing I would be in favor of is big business encourage small business to shut down during the pandemic. Like why a Walmart can stay open, but somebody with outdoor dining can't, can to me only be explained through lobbying with Washington. And I would punish big business for that. I'd be like, hey, you encouraged something that wasn't capitalist. Now you got to pay for it.
Well,
That's
you don't have to be socialist. You can just not have a big government. And if you have no
Yeah, no,
government saying, hey, don't shut it. So if the government says, hey, shut this down, small business is going to be hurt more because they can't lobby. But if you have a small government, well, the small business can be like, hey, screw off. What are you going to do to me?
I agree. And it's like when people talk about historically repressed communities, and yeah, that happened. I acknowledge that happened. It's not right. We've gotten a lot of laws in this country that you don't want solely to repress certain minority groups. But it's like when I'm talking to people, I'm like, listen, government was what impoverished you. It wasn't capitalism. Like what should happen is you should take the heel of the government off of your chest and you'll do a lot better.
I mean, in my opinion, the biggest things that any group could possibly use to succeed: education and real skills and understanding finance, personal finance.
Yeah.
If you have a good skill, accounting, engineering, whatever, and you know that if you save money, you can use that money to invest. That's all you need because you have the skill set and you have the money to monetize that skill set. That's all you need.
Yeah, that and a work ethic. It's like, you look at it, who I got into recently is Patrick Valuetainment is a podcast, and it's a former army dude. He's an Iranian immigrant because immigrants in this country have a work ethic that comes from the old world. They didn't get soft by being in America. That's the biggest problem with being an American is you got soft. And he talks about habits of the 1%. And he talks about, are you willing to put in the work? And that's one of the reasons why I listen to David Goggins. It's like, when I'm feeling like when I feel like I don't want to do the work, I'm like, look at this savage motherfucker out here. And it's like, who do you want to follow? Do you want to follow that fat, lazy motherfucker on the couch complaining about how he doesn't have shit because he doesn't do shit? Or this savage that's like, you know what? I'm going to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. I'm like, I got to throw down with it, dude. I'm throwing down with this dude. This dude's going to get me where I need to be. But I don't know what happened. Participation trophies are what I blame because I just come from a different era. I grew up watching Clint Eastwood westerns.
I mean, like our society is so rich, that people can't imagine having to do like hard labor for survival, and like any hard work is like shocking because it's like, how could this possibly be? We're such an advanced country. And that's what shocks most people. And like, if you're not in the military or, whatever, like a hard job, you never get exposed to any kind of hard work at all. Your whole life is easy. And when you encounter any type of hardship, well, it's hard to overcome because you have no idea what to do.
Yeah, it's infectious. Ultimately, what brings down the American empire is going to be what brought down every empire before it, and that was becoming soft because you got rich.
Honestly, I think the whole world is going to have this problem eventually. It's just a matter of time.
I agree. As much as China has funded this idea of non-binary victimhood in America, it'll infect China at a certain point when they get rich enough. They think they can control it, but it's just such a dangerous idea. It's in fact itself a virus. Victimhood is a virus.
I mean, if you think about it, if everything is provided for you, the robot does my dishes and it cleans my house and it makes my bed, what kind of hardships do you experience? You experience no hardships. And that weakens you because you do nothing.
But some of us in society will seek out challenges.
Well, yeah, those are the people that succeed, but the vast majority of people aren't going to do that.
Yeah. It's what gives me hope. My body's too fucked up to take on, extreme challenges. But what gives me hope is knowing that there's a savage out there that wants to run a 200-mile marathon.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy working out. It keeps me in shape and it challenges me, but I'm not insane. I'm gonna run 200 miles. But the sad thing is that I do more than 95% of the population.
Yeah, but you have an understanding that there is a benefit in doing shit that sucks. I thought about this, man. I'm not really the settle down and have kids type, but if I was a parent, one thing that I would say to my kids around the dinner table is I was like, okay, I'm going to ask you two questions. What did you do today that was fun? And I'd have them talk about that. And then I would go, what did you do today that sucks? And if they were like, I'd look at them and be like, okay, then we got to go do something that sucks, whatever it is. Even if we just go outside with the kid and I'm like, we're going to bear crawl. Dad, why am I doing this? The point of it is that it sucks. Like I said, the older I get, the more I look at that kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, it is important to do something that is not fun every day. Even if it's just your job. You went to your job for 8 hours. You didn't have a good time. That's important as growth because human beings had to suffer in the past. And I don't think that we're happy without some level of suffering.
Oh, no. Suffering is a part of life. If you're not suffering, you're miserable. If you have no challenges and you just wake up every day, you lay in bed, you play video games, you're going to be miserable because you're not actually achieving anything. You're not overcoming anything. And you don't have to live a miserable life, but you need to have some kind of suffering. Even if it's running 3 or 4 miles or sprinting or lifting weights, you need something to challenge you a little bit to keep you happy.
Well, dude, I took the week off of lifting because I'm overtrained. I got bad tendonitis anyways, so I know when I'm starting to come back. But do you know how much better I felt by just getting into the sauna for 20 minutes a day? Getting in the sauna sucks, man. It sucks while you're in there. But just when you come out of there and you're like, okay, I can endure some hardship, crack in the neck, and then you just go about your business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of running. I'm not a marathoner, but I'm kind of a big guy. Huh? Oh, dude, I ran a half marathon, and it was one of the worst things I ever did. But
But
it was great suffering. It was a great suffering experience. And, it helped me be happy because I suffered so much that I learned to appreciate, like, oh my God, I get to like relax, sit on my couch. When, a couple days ago I was suffering like I've never imagined in my life. Like it makes you appreciate the good times.
dude, I was when I was going to, when I was over at USF, right? I lived in this apartment complex, and it was mostly young kids. So one night it's 40 degrees out, and these kids are coming back from the bar, and like we had this center pool. I'm in the pool. It's 40 degrees out in Florida. 40 degrees in Florida is different than 40 degrees up north. I can just tell you that because I've experienced it's
You're not used to
bone.
it.
It's not even that. It's the humidity in the air. So there's water literally in the air, also sucking the life out of you. But I'm in the pool up to about a little bit above my belly button. And I'm in the pool and I'm doing the Wim Hof method, just deep breathing in the pool. And I made it like 15 minutes in there, and because I was counting. And these kids just walked by me, and they're like, "What are you?" When I got out of the pool, they're like, "What?" I flopped out of the pool in pain, wrapped a towel around myself, and ripped off my swimsuit and put on dry shorts. And these kids are like, "What are you doing?" And I go, "It's important to suffer, man. Sometimes you just got to suffer." And they just looked at me in this weird, bizarre way as I walked off. I could see the expression on their faces, and that was the expression that I would probably have around David Goggins. Like, what's this savage doing? What's this
No,
old
you're a wise man. Like I literally think that every day. I'm like, you need to suffer. Not you don't have to be crazy about it, but you need to be uncomfortable. Because if you don't, then there's no metric to compare your normal state against. If you just every day is just the same thing and you wake up and you sit in your ass, like there's no difference. But if you suffer for a little bit, the non-suffering seems a lot better. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's a problem with America today. I thought up this joke the other day, and actually today when I've been trying to eat at small businesses, even though I don't normally eat out. I've been doing it through the pandemic just because I think it's important to support them. But I'm sitting there and I was waiting on a euro, and I was like, what came into my head is David Hogue is the embodiment of a participation trophy. That's what we get. We get soft, feminized men. And I'm fine with letting those people exist. It's just look, we all fall on a spectrum. Okay. You have a spectrum of masculinity. There are very masculine men, there are very feminine men. I don't have a problem with feminine men as long as they're not trying to order me around. And that's generally who ends up as a politician. They shake your finger and do this, and I look at them with anger. But I fall on the masculine end of the spectrum. I'm not the most masculine dude, but I fall on that level of the spectrum. And we've entered a phase where that's an unacceptable thing. But I look at people and I'm like, last time I checked, it wasn't a bunch of effeminate gender studies majors that charged into those towers on 9/11. It was a bunch of masculine men that went in there to save those people, knowing that they probably weren't coming out. So, I mean, I don't know where I'm going with that rant, but it's something that I see in society. I saw it when I was in college with the current level of kids. I'm sure.
Here's the point. So the news is going to always promote people like David Hogg or whatever, but
Yeah.
the vast majority of men are not like that. The vast majority of men are masculine. So you just have to learn to ignore the news because the news has an agenda but they're freaking losers. You know, they're all
Yeah, no,
journalists. Like they're all losers. They're all freaking the weird kids in high school.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. The vast majority of men are. We like hunting. You know, it's like what gives me hope is when I communicate on Twitter with a guy I've never met, and he's talking about how his son got his first deer today, and I'm looking at this fucking 13 point, probably 200-pound buck, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, first deer I got weighed 90 pounds. It barely had velvet, barely, it was a button buck, dude. It was a German Shepherd. No, I know the vast majority of us are like that, but it's just the message that the media sends.
Yeah, but like you have to realize like it's propaganda, and you just have to ignore it. And like I've achieved peace. You know, it's like, okay, there's propaganda. I know it's bullshit. It's fake. It's unrealistic. It's garbage. I just don't care. It's like, okay, you say whatever you want, and then I'll just go do my thing. You know.
Well, here's the reality of it. If you actually sat there with a lot of extremely leftist people and you actually laid out your position on stuff, they would probably agree with you more than they would with Antifa. It's just how it's packaged. If you were sitting there,
I'm not going to waste my time convincing.
No, I agree. I agree.
Like honestly, like I'm at a point where it's like if you're leftist, like I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to waste my time with you. I don't care. It's like fuck off.
Well, I thought about doing this thing in Florida. Is just on Facebook as an outreach, like any anti-2A or something. Okay, I'm an anti-2A. Okay, you want to come to the range with me and shoot my bang stick? I think I would get some. I think you could win some hearts and minds that way.
I mean, you could, but it's almost like you're spending too much time of your life trying to convert one person. Like, okay, you bring one guy to the range.
But also, what I'm doing though is fun. Shooting guns is fun.
I like shooting machine guns. If it's a rifle, it's boring. But when it comes to machine gun, 50 cal, 240, 249, those are my babies. All of them.
See, dude, I don't know, man. I like shooting semi-automatics. I hate, like, even though with my limited experience, I never shot the guns you're talking about. But like, I hated the fucking M16 on 3-round bursts. I'm like, this isn't fun. What am I doing with
this? Gun is so fun. Like, when I have to go to the rifle range to qualify, it's boring. Like, I don't care. But like, you give me a fucking 240 or a 50 cal, I like shooting machine guns, man. But like anything else is garbage.
What about a 50 cal sniper?
I've never shot one of those, but like it's not the same thing. Like you just feel very powerful when you have a 50 cal, and like it's like automatic and you get to walk the rounds into your target. It's so much better than any semi-automatic. And the first time you shoot a machine gun, like you're not going to want to shoot a rifle. Like rifles are boring. It's like, pew 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 pew.
See, dude, I mean, I get it, but like growing up, like hard to believe. I'm going to tell people that's something that's strange. I'm from New York, and I grew up as a country boy. My house was surrounded by cornfields, right? So, like, I just grew up shooting guns. I thought it was fun. I think it's fun.
No, I mean, like, it's fun, but if you like shooting a semi-automatic, you're going to really love shooting a machine gun.
Maybe if I get into a gun club around here, I can find a dude who's on the ATF's shit list, and he's got one, and shoot it at the range.
Dude, it'll change your life. Trust me.
Well, I was watching a dude review the new AK-12. I just found out about that. but it's fully auto. He was shooting it on fully automatic, and I was like, how is that dude controlling the rifle so well? Even on fully, there's got to be a different skill set I don't have to control. Because so when I would shoot the 3-round burst, I always ended up over here. Like I would end up over here off my target.
Well, so with the machine gun, the trick is like, let's say you have a target, you want to
Yeah.
aim below the target, and you watch the tracers, and then you work the tracer up to the target. Because if you shoot over the target, you're not really going to see the tracer. You don't know where it's going. But if you aim below and then you walk it up, you can see where your rounds are going. That is the best way to engage a target.
Yeah, I have no experience. Obviously, man, as being a CE guy in the Air Force, you were a fucking grunt, so you got way more experience with that shit.
Yeah, like trust me, like if you ever shot a 50 cal, like an M16 would not be shit, or like an M4 or an AK. Like it's just fun, you know.
But like growing up, like the way I grew up, I just like hitting targets at a distance. There's like a rush when I'm like, okay, fucking hit that out there. You know what I mean? Like growing up hunting, and you just when you just put the firearm on target, even if it's a shotgun, it's just fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I enjoy bolt action rifles. Like if I'm going to shoot a rifle, I want a rifle that's like very precise, and you have to get it just right. But if it's like semi-automatic, it's like okay, it's not a machine gun, but it's not a bolt action. It's kind of like in the middle. It's just kind of basic.
No, I get it. I get it, man. I don't know. I'm just excited to go to the range with my new toy. Just put it
No,
out
I mean, like
there.
I'm not knocking your weapons, but I mean it's hard for like if you're a civilian, you're not going to shoot a machine gun. You know,
Yeah, no, I agree. I
like
agree.
you have to be in the military to shoot a machine gun.
Actually, I have a buddy down here who used to be a competition shooter. I'm pretty sure when we were talking one time, he mentioned the ATF knows he has it, obviously, but I'm pretty sure he has an automatic weapon. I forget what it was, but I looked at him and like, because at the time he was a competition shooter, he knew so much more about firearms. And I looked at him and I'm like, wait, you can own an automatic rifle? And he said, yeah, but you have to go through specific ATF guidelines. He was trying to explain it to me, and I'm like, okay, you're talking over my head. I don't want the ATF to know that I exist. Like, I don't know if they're spying on us right now as you're telling me this shit.
No, I mean the best way is to just join the military and go to the range. Like that's the best way if you want to shoot a fully automatic weapon.
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that a fully automatic weapon is besides I'm talking about like at the rifle level. Do you think it's advantageous in combat?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Like, because to me, I picture in my head, as a guy with no experience with it, just people ending up way off target. Whereas if you're using a semi automatic, you're slowly acquiring target. But you have way more experience with that and you know way more than I do. So,
Well, I mean, there's a value in just suppressive fire, and it's actually not that hard to control a 240. Like
okay.
when you have a 240, you're not taught to just fire cyclic. You're taught to fire in bursts. So you're going to
Okay.
shoot like 6 rounds at a time, and then you're going to let off the trigger, and then you'll hold it again for another 6 rounds. But even then, like 6 rounds close to a target is sufficient for suppressive fire. So the whole point is to keep your enemy ducking their heads, and hiding away because there's so many bullets going around them. and then you send your maneuver elements on their flanks to flank them and destroy them.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. Yeah. No, because that's what I thought. Like, an automatic weapon was advantageous for is suppressive fire.
Yeah,
Didn't
because
really
like they
think.
also have like base, like you have a mount. Like you can mount a 240. You actually have a tripod, and it
Yeah.
stabilizes the weapon, so it's not like kicking everywhere. And if you have a 50 cal, I mean, you can mount that on like a a remote weapon station where you're controlling it with a joystick, or you have a tripod. You have tripods for 50 cals, so it actually reduces the recoil, and you can provide effective fire onto a position without having the freaking bullets spray everywhere. So you just pin the enemy down with heavy weapons, and then you flank them and destroy them with the light weapons.
Did you watch The Outpost?
Yeah, I did. That was a good show.
Dude, yeah, that was fucking badass, dude. I didn't know about that battle. And then I was like, yeah, that's bureaucrats that would set up a base in the mountains where the enemy could gain higher ground. That's the only people that could fucking think
Dude,
that's
that
a
was
good
like
idea.
infantry colonels, and like it wasn't just bureaucrats. Like it was like actual infantry leaders that did that.
Really? I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't, dude. I don't understand. I don't understand it. Like I said, you have way more combat or training than I would even ever approach. But it's like you ask the fucking Air Force guy that's generator mechanically, hey, should we set up a base where we don't have the high ground? I'd be like, yeah, that's a bad idea.
I mean,
I
like if
just
you have like air support and artillery, it doesn't matter really. But I mean, the whole purpose of that base was like to be close to the civilian population. So you go out there, you do a short walk, you meet the elders. Because like if you don't have that, then like if you're on top of a mountain, how do you go down and meet the elders? You're not going to. You're not going to go talk to the locals. You're this distant population that's just up in a mountain, not coming down. So like there's kind of a justification for staying at the bottom of the valley because that's where the people are. But at the same time, you're also vulnerable to attack. So you want to make sure that if you're vulnerable to attack, you're able to counterattack or at least destroy any enemy that are going to attack you. So it's kind of like a delicate balance.
dude, that was such a it really, dude, I was like on the edge. I was like on the edge of my bed the whole time I was watching. I'm like, holy shit! I was like, Clint Romashay's a stud. Watching that dude work. It's like he comes running into the talk. He's like, we're gonna take the base back. And everybody's like, what? Like, yeah, we're gonna take the base back.
Yeah, like I can't imagine that, man. Like I was in Afghanistan as a platoon leader, but I was not in conditions like that, where it's like, oh, we could actually be overrun and wiped out. Like that's pretty freaking terrifying.
It is, man. Like that's why it's to circle it back around because I'm getting drunk here and we'll probably have to end soon. But it's why I have such disdain for people who rip off fucking military members with financial packages. I was like, I don't like to understand what these people put themselves on the line doing, and you're taking advantage of them. They're protecting you.
Look, if you want a guy that knows exactly how military members get ripped off, I'm your guy because I freaking lived it. I was the guy ripping off the military. Okay? I know exactly how to do it.
Also, addendum, you only did it for what, 2 months?
Oh, yeah. 2 months and I quit. Done.
But I have respect for that too. Like, I mean, 2 months into a job, you're figuring it out, and it's like you're sitting there and you go, I'm fucking ripping off military members. I'm not doing this. You could fuck off with that.
No, because like
That's
I was a captain in the military, and I was like, oh, I'm making so much money, and then I got out, and then this new job, it was like, oh, this they pay pretty well as long as you sell policies. But at the same time, it's like I don't agree with this at all. I think it's garbage and it's screwing people over. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I need to make money, So it's kind of like a balancing act.
Yeah, no, but eventually integrity won out and you ended up in a better position. I mean, maybe you make less money. We don't need to discuss that, but maybe
No,
you
I
make less
actually
money.
I make more now than I did back then.
Good, good. But I mean, that's gross.
Dude, it is disgusting. And like I would gladly debate any of those guys in front of like 20,000 people because I don't care. Like I know exactly what they're doing.
I didn't know it was that dirty until you just started explaining it to me.
Dude, it is you would be shocked how bad the military gets screwed over. It would blow your mind.
I would probably end up headbutting somebody, wouldn't I?
Dude, we can talk offline someday, but it is so bad. It is out of control how bad military gets screwed over.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We're repeating at this point but it was like, when I said I just watched that commercial where fucking dude talks about how helpful he's been to this Coast Guard member, and I'm like, he paid $15,000 for less information than you could have got out of a $4 Jack Bogle book bought off Amazon.
Or free at the library.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know, man. Let's probably call it. I'm getting drunk.
Baby bedtime.
Baby bedtime.
Look,
and I got to piss again.
Let's go till 1:00.
I'm not going to make it there.
I'm just fucking.
Dude, yeah, if you know people too, or like if you're like you, because you have more subscribers than I do, they want to fucking join in. We'd have them join in too. I tried to set up people. My boy John, he ate something. He was vomiting, so it was a bad weekend. Nate, who's I don't want to say, but he's going into the military. He's in college, but his, like I said, his cousin died. So I was like, when I asked him to do the podcast, I'm like, you ready? He goes, dude, my cousin died and I'm with my family. I go, oh, shit. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have one friend that cares about stocks. And, like, I think he would join us, but it would have to be really early because he lives in Germany and they're, like, 5 hours ahead. So we'd have to film at, like, 5 o'clock,
We could do that at some point. I won't be drinking, so I'll probably say less ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say, like, if you want to do it with him, I would say 4 or 5 p.m. on the weekend.
We can do that too.
I'm down with that. So I mean, I could ask him, and he'd probably do it.
Dude, I'm down with anybody. As long as we know the dude isn't crazy. Because like we have small enough podcasts where somebody might DM us and be crazy and then come in here and just start saying crazy shit, and we're both looking at each other like, what is this guy saying? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, at least with this guy, he would be fine. But like that's my only friend that actually cares about stocks. So
we'll get whoever in, man. I texted another buddy. He said he wanted to come on. My buddy who was an accountant he just he's an accountant now. He was in the army. He's paranoid about it. I'm like, dude, we literally just talk about investing.
I mean, if he wants, we could just meet and just talk to each other without going live. It's not a big deal. And if once he knows me and he's comfortable.
It's not you. He's paranoid about saying something fucked up on the internet. It's actually not you. That's what it is. He's like, dude, I'm afraid I'm going to say something on the internet that just isn't going to turn out good for me. I'm like, you're overly paranoid, but I have to respect your position. I don't want to, you know what I mean? If somebody's a friend, I don't want to try and force them into doing something they don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably get one or two guys on, and then we could go from there. But like, I definitely want to talk to that kid that wants to buy TeSzLa.
No, I'm gonna get Nate on here because we need an intervention because he gets mad at me when we're out at stand up, and I'm like, get rid of your TeSzLa. He goes, bro, I'm 21 years old. I go, listen to your Uncle Naugy. This isn't about your age. This is about you making stupid shit. You could be 60, and I would be telling you the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to learn. He needs to meet Uncle Chris.
He does. He does. And I also, what I'm going to text him, I want to get him on here, and you're going to have to deal with the fact that he's crazy. It's my friend Sean. He's an Air Force firefighter who was in an IED explosion. So he's got a TBI. But I literally want to see your reaction when he tells you about the time he bought a gold mine.
About what?
Gold mine. Western Nevada. And he was living out in a bus. It's the craziest story.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear that.
Yeah, so like I want to prepare you though, Sean. Now I don't know if it was one of those things that was natural, but he's got some bipolar, so he gets a little bit crazy. He trained Muay Thai too, which gave him more brain damage. And then in 2014, he got blown up in Iraq, and now, you know what I mean? So like this, but you'll love the dude. He's crazy, but.
All right, we can do a test session, like not live, and then we'll see how it
He's
goes.
not going to say anything that's going to get us fired or canceled. He just, I was actually pretty upset with the way that veterans are getting treated out west because he was telling me about trying to get into the VA in Nevada, and he's had civilians hang up on him. And I'm like, listen, I'm just telling you right now in Florida, you get in a lot of trouble. You might get fired for that. Even though it's a federal position, hanging on a veteran or being rude to a veteran in Florida, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah. You got to be smart about it. You got to pick the states that actually want you.
Yeah, he was telling me, he's like, there's a homeless crisis out there. They're dealing with so many homeless veterans out in Nevada that they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah. Fuck that. Move to Florida, move to Virginia, whatever.
Yeah.
They hired me in Virginia.
Huh?
They hired me in Virginia, so they must be hiring veterans out here.
Yeah. All right, brother. I got to.
All right, man.
All right. What do you want to do? We'll just communicate. We'll text. We'll figure it out.
I mean, maybe next weekend. We'll see. But yeah, definitely just text me, Facebook.
I'll text you because I want to do I want to do a live stream from my new house.
Yeah, I mean, if you're running during the weekend, as long as it's after 7, I'm usually down.
I'm with it, man. I don't go out to the bars because in Florida, man, I feel a responsibility because I work around people with immunocompromised systems. I just feel a responsibility to not go out.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's knocked up, so she can't go out. I can't go out.
Congratulations.
I know.
If it's a
I'm a
son,
daddy.
if it's
I hope
a
so.
son, you
I
should
hope
name
so.
it Jason.
Hey,
Jason,
you're
not
you're
after
the first guy to know.
not after me, after Jason Momoa.
No, after you.
All right, brother. It's always fun.
All right, man. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
talk.
because I gotta piss so bad right now.
Me too. All right, man. Later.